All right, it's a new week, and well, it isn't. We aren't coming out of the gate like with as much just good, heartfelt news as last week, but you know.
Oh, I don't know. I've got something that might be heartfelt. It's just that you might feel your heart more than it, like in a bad way.
All right, all right.
Uh,
Well, drop it
famous,
on us, man.
famous Amos, famous Amos is famous again.
Cookies?
Amos Yee.
Oh,
Yeah,
wasn't he in jail?
he's in jail. Oh, they
Tell me more.
he's in jail for soliciting a 14-year-old, and he was grooming a 14-year-old,
Wait, wasn't he already
and
in jail for that?
oh no, he was in jail for speech issues, I think, but he groomed a 14-year-old and they found a bunch of child porn on his computer, and this was making the rounds again this week.
Oh, really? Wow.
Yeah,
You.
I imagine you're shocked, right? And if it's an old story, fine, but like I'm pretty sure this was new at least for the social media area of it.
Could be, could be.
He's yeah.
For those
Oh,
unfamiliar,
there was
Amos Yee
he was just trolling.
has
All that
been
shit was going around.
a quote unquote ironic map advocate.
Yeah, yeah,
It
it's the
was
height of
totally
irony.
irony and jokes, bro. Totally
Like
irony
here's the thing,
and totally jokes.
even if he was trolling before, even if he was trolling before, I mean it's not clearly it's not a joke now. It's just dude, you're a fucking pedo. Um, Prosecuted and convicted and jailed pedo. Sucks to be you, man. Go jump off a tall building. Make sure you land head first so we don't have to hear your bullshit after you crush your spine.
Yeah, I want to say he was on like one of the blood sports things
But
too about that
speaking of
specific
euthanasia,
topic.
though,
All right, all right. Yeah, this is a this one came out. Let me see exact timing on it. I got the article right around Thanksgiving. Came out. What's the date on this? Oh, well, shit. All
rather
right.
recent, right?
So I don't have a specific date on this. The article's from the 24th, so we'll just have to assume it's somewhere around then. But a little bit of background. As of February 2020, Germany's top court allowed euthanasia because it is constitutional to euthanize people, according to Germany, which, okay, whatever.
That's yay, Germany at it again.
But what they've done now is. Now, is this. I can't
Okay,
find
so it's
exactly
constitutional to
who.
euthanize people.
I can't
They're
find
doing
exactly
lockdowns and they
who
have camps.
did this, which is unfortunate, but it
Well,
seems
previous
like
Germans.
it's Merkel's party. It seems like, but there's not a lot of info to go on.
I just want to hit those three things again, though. Let's just recap before we get into the details. It's legal to kill people there. It's legal to euthanize, rather. They have camps, and they're in a lockdown.
Yeah. Well, I
So
guess if we look
just
at it from that frame of reference, this is actually some good news.
like I gotta say, like I don't like making those comparisons, um, because frankly, we should not be making those comparisons if they're not like legitimate,
Yeah.
unless it's
Yeah, I mean,
obvious
it's not like we're
sarcasm.
talking about three
This has been
teenagers
obvious sarcasm.
that were in a camp, a quote unquote voluntary camp where the work they were doing was meant to make them feel free, and they just left of their own accord. I
Well,
mean,
I'm willing to say here that if they're going to be concentrating people of a particular status in society, and they allow euthanasia as a medical procedure, which was one of the medical experiments performed at the time, say a century ago ish, it's not really looking like it's a. I mean, we're in the timeline of a century here. We're about 10 years out from a really bad problem.
theoretically, a
We might be
Weimerica
getting there a little
situation.
early. You
Some have
never
said.
know. We might be getting there a little bit early. You never know. I think it's getting to that point in a really disturbing way.
Well, there's a whole bunch of people that are kind of tired of shit and just saying, let's go ahead and get it on
Yeah,
over
but
with.
like, you know what happened to those people about a century ago? They got shot.
Well, I guess it depends on which versions you mean. If you're
So,
talking about the brown shirts or the Antifa of their
well,
day, or
pick a direction. Pick a direction if you want. They got shot.
yeah, pretty much. Well, anyway, the
People
long
were
and short
shooting
of
each other
this,
in the streets. Yeah,
the long and
yeah.
short of this particular story, if you want to look at it through that lens, technically good. So what's happened is, if you don't have the I'm vaccinated gold star, then you can't be euthanized. Isn't that lovely?
Yeah, for hopefully for at least 10 years more.
Yeah, yeah, but who knows? I mean, they've also said that just let them take them out of society and let them die, and this, that, and the other. So we'll have to
Well,
see
you
how
see,
that
it's
all.
funny to me because it's the height of ignorance about pandemic disease. When someone says just let natural selection take its course and kill off all the unvaccinated, because it's not going to kill off all the unvaccinated. In fact, the people who survive, which is the problem here, is we want to minimize human misery. So the people that survive will be fine, probably. Um, it's the whole 1 in 7 having a problem thing, but let's just say you're one of the 6 out of 7 that has no problems and recover just fine, that we know up to date. Um, you're free to not only live on and procreate, you're also free to uh, probably fare slightly better against new variants that you're also free to transmit at will while you're sick. So people saying, "Oh, just let them get sick and die," are not really smart. They're just assholes.
Oh, you know what? Let
Um,
me actually comment on that
it sounds
specific
smart. It
topic
sounds smart
real
until you
quick
know
too.
anything, and then it's stupid.
Well, let me comment on that really quickly because it's not coming up in a lot of the discussions I see in kind of the fringes anymore. But I want to go ahead and address it just for a real quick second anyway. Vaccine shedding. It is
Not
a
a thing.
thing, but it is not a
No,
thing in the way it's described, and it's also not as the verbiage would
it's
make
not a
you think.
thing.
So, vaccine shedding, as it were, is actually a vaccinated person who has an overabundance of the virus because they have a vaccine and don't realize it. And with that, they, can go out and about in the public.
Okay, hold on a second. Let's just make sure we got the words right here. They have an overabundance of the virus because they have a vaccine.
Right.
And we're sure that that's the language that you want to use and that that's all what was going on here.
Well, I guess I should say vax because it's an mRNA quote unquote gene
No, I mean,
editing
no,
technology.
vaccine.
But,
mRNAs, it's vaccine.
well,
We've gone down that rabbit hole before, and it's a fucking vaccine. You can be frustrated with the fact that it's a vaccine, but it's a vaccine.
I don't know. It's debatable, but, that's kind of not really pertinent to the point.
It's
But,
debatable, but we had that debate, and it's a vaccine.
well,
Just,
you're
I'm gonna be
entitled to your
annoying
opinion.
on that.
And
I am.
it can be marketed as such, but
It's not
it
a
is a
gene therapy.
medical treatment that is somewhere in between a vaccine and a gene therapy.
Look, I will allow that it's similar to a gene therapy, but it's not a gene therapy. It's not fixing a gene of any sort,
No, but it is putting genes in a place where they
right?
never were before. So,
Yeah,
they're
but so is any other vaccine. The only vaccine that you can say that doesn't do that is an inactivated virus, where it's already dead.
not true. True. It'd be nice if we were actually using
That's
one of
the
those.
only one that's gonna not put DNA or RNA into the body that does something.
Yeah, yeah, but that's also going to be something that
We
exists
went over this
in
before. The
nature.
mRNA cuts out the whole first half of the infection cycle and gets rid of the fact that you're going to produce more viruses with a weakened virus vaccine, or say a modified virus vaccine.
But my language still stands. I mean,
All right.
it's well, it does. It absolutely does.
And look,
If you have the
I'm
vaccine,
not like sitting
you
here
can
to
spread the
not trying to shit
virus.
on you.
It's as simple as
Not
that.
trying not trying to rain fire down your parade here. I'm just saying my automatic assumption is ignorance from just forgetting our previous conversation because we've done a lot of episodes at this point.
Well, sure we have, and it's not a matter of ignorance. I mean, a vaccinated person
Okay.
can spread corona. We know this.
Just want to make sure that if I call
That's
you an asshole, it's
established
for a
science.
legitimate reason. That's all.
Oh, I don't care. But, I mean, we know that a vaccinated person, an actually vaccinated person, since technically the Sinovax is an actual vaccine, inarguably, can,
Fine.
I mean, it's a traditional vaccine. So
from a weakened virus vaccine or modified virus vaccine, from having a high viral load from that vaccine, they can shed virus, is what you're saying.
not from the vaccine, just a high viral load by nature of their environment. But that's kind of splitting hairs.
Well, is it the viral? Is it the virus from the vaccine, as in the virus in the vaccine?
No, that would be
that they've then received from someone else.
Yeah, that would be the way that a lot of the conspiracy folks describe vaccine shedding, as either that or actually shedding the vaccine itself. Which is kind of the same
know
thing.
The conspiracy shit, but I'm just trying to get to what you were saying so that we can make it clear for the listeners here. So you're saying that they had a high viral load. Is this from a breakthrough infection or from the infection with a weakened virus that is acting as the vaccine?
Oh,
which of the two is it?
The truth of the matter is a high viral load from the environment. I mean, because your body's not going to really produce much more or much less than any other given body.
So environment though, are we talking about a breakthrough infection or not?
Well, I mean, if we're talking about a vaccinated person, obviously.
Okay, so then we're talking about a second step here. So that you have a high viral shedding from someone who has had a breakthrough infection who's been previously vaccinated.
Yeah. I mean, I would have figured that was fairly clear.
It was not so clear to me, at least.
Oh.
Hopefully it's clear to everybody now. I think we've got enough of the...
Yeah. Well, I'm just trying to put some truth to a conspiratorial term, basically.
Well, see, that's the thing is often torture, and I'm using this in the kindest way I can here, but torturing the nomenclature into a position where it can be given life like that is kind of opposite of the way that we normally structure our language, but I mean, I get it.
Well, yeah, I mean, we don't talk about illegal aliens so much anymore either. We talk about undocumented migrants, so...
But that's literally their legal status in the country. It's illegal alien.
Yeah, but we still can't say it.
Like, that's what's on the fucking form. In court, when they ask you, what is your legal status? The lawyer next to you that is an asshole is going to have to, through their teeth, say illegal alien.
Yeah, that's a funny
I wish
thing.
this shit was televised, because that would make it so much better.
Oh, man. Speaking of televised, there is something happening right now that absolutely fucking should be. There's a trial going on in Manhattan. Yeah, Ghislaine.
Why isn't that shit, everywhere?
Yeah, there's minimal reporting on it. We're finding, just from the little bits that get out, we're finding out wild shit.
Oh, the Black Book has been verified. That's a big one. Now they can use that to go through and find all the fuckers in it. If they're going to do that, of course.
Right.
But because that's been entered into evidence and verified, it's been verified as evidence in court. It is legitimate evidence. It's prima facie on a lot of fuckers that they can go after. Isn't parts of that published at this point?
I'm pretty sure.
You can just look at names in it.
Yeah, I want to say that it actually is.
I mean, was that Prince that died recently? Wasn't he involved? Or no, is he not dead?
There's an interesting
he's alive,
question.
Right? He's alive.
Prince?
Yeah, well, I mean...
Prince Andrew. Prince Andrew. I was going to say, wait, I don't think I heard about that one. But yeah.
No. Not that Prince. The other Prince.
Yeah, funny enough, actually, I have not heard a word about him involved in this. Which you'd kind of think so.
You'd think that he would have been subpoenaed by the court, even as a notional gesture, to see if it would happen with England at this point.
Oh, I was talking about the dead one.
But then again, the Bidens might be involved. So maybe they just bought some art.
Well, Hunter's stuff is selling really well these days. Top dollar.
Like hotcakes, isn't it?
It really is. It really
Kudos to
is.
him, man.
You know, you got to wonder, is 10% still going to the big
Yeah,
day?
I've sneezed on a napkin too before, man. It's I didn't know it was worth $500,000.
Well, to be fair, he is actually doing something, but it's not entirely high effort. I mean, it looks like the stuff I did in high school. So,
Yay!
yeah, that's kind of a thing.
So anyway, what's something new that's come out of this trial? What's a such as here?
Well, the one thing that really kind of popped out at me, which is it's really not material to the trial at all. It's just really fucking creepy. Is there's this picture of Ghislaine drawing the court sketch artist, and of course the court sketch artist has to sketch out noteworthy scenes for the trial. So you see this inception of people drawing each other, and it's the most bizarre thing. I will have to give me just a second. I'll actually get you a picture of this, and I'll link it for.
That's creepy.
It really is. It's one of the creepiest fucking things I've ever seen. Let me see here. I'll drop you the
When
link.
you saw there was that I guess that was a child victim that like there was a sketch for someone who got like snatched at a hotel, I think, or no, it was the description that they gave to the police. They had a sketch from it, and it looked basically like Ghislaine.
Yeah, the things that have come out in this last week, I haven't gotten a lot of it.
The hair on that lawyer. Sorry.
Right. And that popped color. Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, anyway.
No.
Shit, it's easy to get distracted when I've got a headache. Whatever. It happens. So for those not in the know, I'm dealing with a sinus headache. So, you'll have to excuse me. All right. Oh, crap. I need to have the link to the actual tweet as opposed to my take on it. That doesn't do a whole lot of good for the people at home.
No, it would not.
Okay, there we go. All right. So, what's I haven't personally seen the video because I've heard a lot of this info before, like you said, about the Black Book and some of the leaks that have come out. But there were some folks in New York City, actually, I want to say Saturday, that were doing a demonstration that were basically just reading off names out of the book.
Yes. That's fucked up. But
let me see if I can find
were any of them were any of them the Cuomos?
Ooh, that's
It's a spicy meatball.
Oh, hey, you had asked me if I had good news. And you know what? We can kind of roll into some really great news.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure you and I are probably of the same mind on this in thinking that Chris Cuomo was facing kind of a Jeffrey Toobin situation. He fucked up big enough that you should probably be gone, but they're just going to lay low on it for a while.
He was lubricating his situation, yes.
Oh, he truly was. He truly was. More for a family benefit. But it has come out since. Chris Cuomo has been terminated just permanently. He's gone.
So Brian Stelter had the best, the best inadvertent journalism of all of this for a couple of things. The first thing that was pretty major was he admitted on air when he said, not like a fake suspension like those other suspensions, meaning that when CNN suspends someone in response to pressure from outside, it's probably only because there's pressure outside. Usually the company policy has been like, oh, it's a real suspension. We're definitely punishing this person.
Oh yeah, we're totally doing it this time, guys, for sure.
He just admits it. He just flat out admits it. Though. I was like, yeah, they're all fake except this one was real. And then he's sitting there saying like we only they had to deal with the fact that Chris was getting a lot, like there was a lot of emotion involved around Chris dealing with his brother versus the facts of the situation. And he basically came out on CNN admitting that CNN puts facts over feelings. Oh, sorry, feelings over facts. Uh, but like he's on CNN saying CNN puts feelings over facts. I mean, you should not trust. Like, he has without meaning to said you should not trust anything that CNN has to say. Period. It does not. If feelings are high, then the facts are going to be absent. That is what he has admitted in public.
And
beautiful
follow up
kiss.
And I've got a New York Times follow up on this, which Times is garbage, but if you can draw your sources from garbage sources that hate you personally to back up your own narrative, then, I mean, there's pretty much no stepping around it. So Cuomo is gone, and that's the fairest thing that could have happened. I mean, it should have happened some time ago.
Should have happened fucking decades ago is what should have happened. Out of journalism.
Well, if nothing else, when he had the nerve to go on and say, hey, we're the news, okay? You can't go and look at these WikiLeaks files. You know, you would be breaking the law if you did that. So, we are the news.
Don't make us break your legs for breaking the law, jackass.
Right.
Yeah, real shame if you read the WikiLeaks and got an informed vote. Who knows who'd lose protection, Yeah,
you wouldn't want to upset the boss,
What a fucking Goomba.
Truly. A real Fredo. A real Fredo. Oh, man. People are going to... he's not going to be able to say shit about that either now.
No.
So if you ever see Chris just walking around be like, hey, Fredo, hey! And he can't say shit. He can't say shit.
My boy.
So what were you about to say there?
So CNN's official statement actually made this a whole lot juicier. We'll just have to see exactly how CNN tries to feelings it up so they don't have to say anything actually factual. But apparently the straw that broke the camel's back was not him, not the published information. Instead, new information came up during their investigation of the matter, the suspension matter, that made them instantly want to fire him, whatever it was.
Now that in and of itself should be incredibly telling. Like, CNN will let the most egregious shit just fly. So there has to be something fucking huge in here.
So they said they will continue to investigate irrespective of the termination. And it's just like, okay, so that means they're not actually going to do that, but they found something that made them want to terminate his ass instantly. So this also makes me think that Brian Stelter calling it a real suspension was also bullshit. That they were probably going to do the thing that he said they were going to do and probably bring his ass back in January. But then they found something that was really bad. Maybe they found a letter to one of the managers saying, you're going to let Chris continue to protect me or else...
That would be an interesting find.
But you also notice that they spent a lot of time looking at these women that making accusations, credible accusations, mind you, against Mr. Cuomo, Mr. Mayor, and
Mr.
they spent they spent
Governor,
no time.
Governor, not Mayor.
Sorry, Governor. Excuse me. I'm sorry. They spent no time investigating any of the dead grandmas or grandpas.
Yeah, they don't.
And again, they wouldn't have been able to interview any of them because they're in the fucking ground.
Yeah, indeed they are. Indeed they are. They are not able to provide testimony any longer.
And there wasn't an election going on for a Democrat.
Totally wasn't. No.
And there could have been an exit poll that would have given them something. They should add that to the exit poll this coming year.
Well, that'd be an interesting thing to know.
Did you previously vote for Cuomo?
Yes, of the 59 million, which includes you, do you count yourself still as a member of that 59 million, or have you left the 59 million?
No, let's be fair. If they're showing up, it's the 80.
Well, I mean, now, yeah. But that being said, I don't really have any cool like New York segues because New York just fucking sucks anymore. It's a shithole like it used to be, and it's not fun like it was when it was a shithole the last time.
Oh yeah, it's the murder rate's up and all that shit. It's getting to be as bad as the '70s in this country as far as that shit goes.
Yeah, but the thing about it is, in the '70s, New York had fucking character. Now it's bland and gray and brown and beige, and it's just as dangerous. And you can't even carry a gun to defend yourself.
It's the color of the gutter. It's the color of the gutter after a Saturday night. Got it.
Yeah, totally is. Speaking of gutters, I'm sure you've heard Fauci's recent statements on how he is the science, and if you question me, you're questioning science. Well,
that guy needs to fucking get out of the public. Like, he needs to be fired.
Yes.
He needs to be fired. He needs to get his ass kicked out. Like, there needs to be televised. Just like, have him getting into a limo and saying goodbye and then getting hit by an egg. Fuck him. He needs to go.
Or train, whatever. But yeah, absolutely.
No. Here's the thing. Like, if anything bad like that happens to him, you're gonna get vigilante bullshit, and you just don't need that.
No, not a train. What are they gonna do? Go and protest on the train tracks? They don't slow down that fast, my man.
They're already blaming shit on an SUV, man. What do you think they're gonna do?
Well, that SUV, it did activate its autonomous driving over white Christians, feature, and just started doing that. So, what do you expect?
Well, look, there was a stunning and brave individual desperately honking the horn and trying to slow it down, but eventually it succumbed. He succumbed, and it was able to speed back up.
Oh man, I've got some bad news. I just checked on that.
It tried to shake him off by zigzagging too.
It did, and unfortunately, it seems that it was able to block his honking and brake pressing ability. So even though he obviously was, of course, trying to honk at people and trying to slam on the brakes, it totally stopped him because it's an autonomous Ford Escape.
Hey, they have been working on car AI, but we saw with iRobot, the movie, of course, because why would we cover this in book form? We did see that, obviously, this would fall down to faulty equipment, and so it should go back to Ford so they can investigate further and determine exactly how the car was being racist as well, because clearly impacting a black man.
Indeed. As if the car was trying to frame him for some sort of hate-fueled terroristic act. God forbid.
It's ridiculous. Really. God forbid we let that fucker out of jail again. $1,000. I can't believe that shit, man.
Well, they did up it to $5 million.
Fucking DA.
Oh, speaking of,
needs to go to jail.
Yes. He's another one of those fucking Soros DAs.
It's a factor of 5 times greater than the factor increase is a factor of 5 times greater than the original bail. Like, that should give people pause for thought. The original bail is 1,000. The new bail is 5 million. 5,000-fold increase.
Yeah, and
it's just.
Oh, and an update. We had discussed this previously.
The same shit, virtually the same shit.
Oh no, absolutely. But we had discussed this previously, and it had come out that the BLM terrorist crew had put together a new fundraiser, just a general fundraiser for Waukesha in the amount of $5 million.
Oh, yeah.
That was shut down.
Yeah, okay, that was shut down. Good.
Yes, as well it should have been because
Fantastic.
it was.
Even though that the shit that's just happening now recently is all still getting fucking bail funds on GoFundMe. But why would we call attention to shit like that when it's nothing's going to happen for it? I bet you that $5 million fund just went back up as $5,000 funds.
You know what? I wouldn't be surprised. A little bit harder to.
Admittedly, those kind of brainlets would probably put it up as $1 million funds first, but you can see where they might go from there.
Oh yeah, nothing surprising me.
Or maybe they just went over to Patricia Cullors and said, "Hey, can we have $5 million out of your 90?" And she probably went, "I haven't spent it yet."
Well, is that the one with all the really nice property?
Yeah, she's the one that bought large mansions after all the Burnloo murder.
Oh yeah, there's a guy I follow on Twitter. He asked a really interesting question, like, well, if all of these commies they support this communism. Why don't they just buy a great big swatch of land and try it? And I was like, well, dude, they pulled their
Well,
money
they
and
kind of
did buy a
tried
bunch of it.
that.
I mean, they're
They
kind
kind of
of,
tried that. It just didn't work out in Colorado, right? They went up to 10,000 feet and like, they were going to get this, and then it turned out that was a scam too.
yeah, yeah. It's funny
We
how these
raised
always,
$65,000. Oh no, where'd the money go? We spent it.
yeah, it's funny how that works itself out. But on that same
So
funny
speaking of
topic,
BLM, yeah, go ahead.
well, we hadn't finished, you see, because on the whole
Oh,
Fauci
please,
is
I'm sorry.
science thing, because
Yes.
if we're to take his words at face value, and he is indeed the face of science, then what Anthony Fauci has done is the worst disservice and honestly attack on science that has occurred in our lifetime. He has made a very good, very potentially useful. I mean, we could cure people of cancer who've gotten cancer before with mRNA technology, theoretically. It's working
Yeah,
really well right now.
it's working on like five cancers, five plus cancers, I think.
And mRNA vaccines or treatments of any variety are going to be, he's put a poison pill into that now.
Yeah.
Anyone is going to be like, oh, I don't know. I mean, we've got all this evidence of the heart stuff and the myocarditis and the infarctions and the infractions. And it's like, well, yeah, but that's because of the way that these work on that specific thing and how it causes your body to view its own blood and or heart. It doesn't work that way with other things because it works an entirely different way. But that doesn't matter now. That question is going to always be there in people's heads. And
Yeah, he's the poison in the well, is what he is, and
like,
it's really fucking tragic.
he's got to go,
'Cause it's
man.
gonna cost. It already has cost lives, and it's gonna cost more lives.
Absolutely.
Think of it like this: all the people that would have been protected, that are of those dead, that didn't get vaccinated because they didn't like Fauci, or didn't get vaccinated because, say, a Democrat campaign last year told them otherwise, blah blah blah, etc. Here, they're fucking dead. They don't get to have an opinion anymore because they're dead.
Yeah.
And it's
How
because
many?
assholes like him that said at the beginning, don't panic, don't prepare, don't fucking prepare. I can't stress how much that alone pissed me off.
While
Don't
also, let
bother
me note,
preparing.
at the same time, he had received an email from one of his colleagues telling him,
Asking
"Hey,
how
is
he
this
was.
one of ours? Did we make this?" I mean, that's
Oh, there's that one too. That was fucking phenomenal.
yeah,
And
like,
then, yeah, we need to talk about this immediately. Read this paper. Jesus fucking Christ.
and it's like, did we make this one? Like, and this is, of course, at the time that he's saying, "Oh, transmission between people is impossible. That's what
There's no
Tedros over at the
community
WHO
transmission.
told us."
Yeah, fuck him.
So,
My interest in this project had nothing to do with the fact that I'm fucking lying to the American people.
or the fact that he has specific monetary input
Exactly.
on
It's-
that laboratory, on not only on that laboratory, but with that laboratory on that specific subject matter. Like, they were working on fucking human modified coronavirus.
Yeah, so he needs to be out, is my opinion. I don't care like if you think he's benefited or not. Like he needs to go.
Oh, he has
in my opinion,
benefited.
is actively harmed. I think he's actively harmed the country and the people.
And
Like,
science.
not just like,
And
literally
medicine.
in science and medicine, etc. Just he has caused such a fucking knot in the middle of all this shit. He is so fucked it over. He needs to go.
No, he
As a crisis of public faith in the system. I'll put it like that. Since he's basically taking on the role of a fucking pope. Depose him. Excommunicate his ass. He's out.
well, that's actually
He
a
hasn't written a
really
fucking paper in forever.
that's a really good way of putting it too, because there's so many people that view him as a religious figure essentially, because
This is where I say like scientism, this inane need to deify and dogmatize belief in science, which is not required. You do not need to believe in science for it to function. This is one of those little truisms that Neil deGrasse Tyson likes to spit out from time to time on Twitter. That actually is true. Like, facts don't need your belief to work. Science does not need your belief for it to actually function. In fact, it very much relies on your doubts and being wrong. A lot. It is. Fauci has done irreparable harm, in my opinion.
Oh no, he absolutely has. I mean,
I don't know
on so many levels,
sufficient,
and to so many different. A Nuremberg Code violation.
I don't know what would be sufficient as a punishment for what he's done, but at the very least, what we can do as a society, like it's like with Hitler. Imagine you caught Hitler and you had to prosecute him. What would you be able to do to him to bring back the 11 million people he killed? Like, you would, the scale is out of the context. Like, it's just, you don't have enough Hitlers to kill to make it right. You know what I mean? There's not enough that you can, there's no way to undo what Fauci has done. He has opened up Pandora's box in this case. It is just disgusting. And he needs to go. He needs to not be in a position of power ever again. He's old enough. Let him fucking retire. Why is he still at his desk?
Because for some reason people believe him. That's the long and short of the story.
The belief it's dogmatized. It's dogmatic bullshit. It's, we'll just trust his judgment, his biased feelings on the matter, because he's an expert. Okay, he's an expert, but not in this specific subject, unless you're going to admit that there was a fucking lab leak.
Well, he has been making innocent people suffer since the 80s.
Well, I pointed this out not that long ago. He has failed upwards by fucking up pandemics and letting thousands of people die. How many people died in the 80s because he said he can pass on AIDS by butt fucking? But only because of the butt fucking itself, not because of the transmission of body fluids and so on. Like, how many more people went, okay, it's fine if I go and have sex with my boyfriend or girlfriend, because there's no way we can transmit it. It's only when you have the rectal tearing and blood transmission. Like, it's...
Well, I guess that's what he learned in the bathhouses while he was spending all that time there.
Yeah, I mean,
I wonder if he learned from first-hand experience.
He has a fantastic collection of dick pics too. Like that woman Wang who had the 16 million dick pics.
Oh yeah, I know she glows, but I can't remember what organization she glows for.
I believe it was TSA. Or no, if it wasn't TSA, it was.
No. I think she was with it. Yeah, I want to say CIA because I really think that she was like one of the.
Maybe I bet you it was NSA then.
Oh yeah, no, that might be NSA. Right. It was one of the intel agencies.
They probably wouldn't want to admit that They wouldn't want to admit that the CIA does anything domestically because that would be illegal.
Oh, on that note, I was looking for a story that had come out. I want to say just last week or the week before, but it's gotten buried, so I've had a hell of a time finding it.
Dick pics from phones.
Right.
Sorry.
Yes. No, you're right. That was like individual pictures that were sent between text messages and shit. Or potentially just stored in the cloud. But the fucking shit with I want to say it was the CIA that it just came out that they had people that had like child porn on their computers and had like maybe even acted against
that? And
minors.
None of them are.
Nobody fired.
Like, out in front in
nobody
public,
even investigated.
trials.
Nothing. Just that happened. Whatever.
I mean, could you imagine if the trial were televised somehow? Nah, that's never gonna happen.
Yeah, it's really something.
Just why are we protecting any of these people in any sense? Like, just a normal person would be fired immediately. A normal person would be fired. They'd be jailed. From Fauci onto the the glowies, etc., etc.
Mm-hmm.
The triple letter threats.
Yep.
Those alphabet robots.
Oh, speaking of robots, did you see the Xenobot news? I actually linked this back at the end of last month. The self-replicating Nanobots.
Yes, and kill them with fire.
Yeah, it's kind of fucking creepy, dude.
I
Like,
mean, it's cool.
oh yeah, no, it's absolutely cool, and
It's,
technologically,
it is
it's
just the
something
scientist in
you
me, but I'm
kind
sitting
of
here like,
need.
this is really cool.
But this is how you get gray goo.
Yeah, I was sitting there reminiscing on what the hell is that fucking short story? The one with the it was a treatise on kind of modern civilization, but it was part of it involved the conversion, well, basically Grey Goo. I think it was the story that created the Grey Goo zeitgeist, if you will.
Oh, okay. I was gonna ask you if it was something Uncle Ted wrote. You know, because he wasn't a big fan of technology either.
Right.
But yeah, these things are. I mean, it's quite fascinating. It really, really is, and it's one of those technologies that you kind of do need going into the future because it's just not really reasonable to make that many nanites. I mean,
Well,
you
so the thing is, it's you can do that. So keep in mind, we were able to make billions and in some cases trillions of transistors on a chip. It's legitimately, we're able to do that kind of stuff with photolithography very easily, very quickly. It's not out of the realm of possibility to be able to do something like trillions of nanobots,
true.
especially if you have a chemical production process that can be scaled reasonably.
Now, mind you,
Really not out of the realm of possibility.
these are semi-organic though, so you know that's kind of a different
Well, yeah,
beast. But yeah,
so this is the fun thing is once you get down to the level of like a virus or say a replicating cell, you start to get into the nuance of what it means to be alive as a philosophical question.
oh sure,
Are we basically robots? And to a certain extent, yes. But there's certain complexity issues that come into it, especially self recognition of any type is pretty fundamental to it. But the point here being that like you start to get into these kind of fundamental questions, and if you can scale things appropriately for these kind of devices, who knows? Maybe we'll have recognition of a self-replicating nanobot at some point, or self-recognition rather.
well, you know, when a system
That'd
grows complex enough,
be nuts,
interesting
right? And
things
so that's what
just
I mean. Is
start
there's a
happening.
boundary. There's a very fuzzy boundary to it. I mean, you can look at all kinds of creatures that can pass the Rouge test, not just the mirror test, but the Rouge test. So the mirror test being, can you recognize your own image, or can you recognize in a mirror that there is an image of you? The Rouge test being, can you recognize that the image in the mirror is you and that there's something different about you? You know, that where you go to touch the Rouge to try and get rid of it or to see what it is. Like, can you recognize that there is a like something on your person that is not supposed to be there? So there's two levels to that, and it's important. At, there's all kinds of creatures that can do both the mirror test and the Rouge test. From just I'm in Florida, so just effing around with the green anoles outside. You know, I'll trap one occasionally and bring it in and clean it up just to, like have as a pet for a day. But and if I put them in the garden, that's the main function of them, in my opinion. You know, as far as all God's creatures and so on, their purpose in life is to guard my food
Hey, there you
and
go.
kill everything else trying to eat it. Which it works pretty well. You don't have to go out there and spray pesticides. They just eat the bugs. You know, some of your plants don't get as good treatment as others, but whatever. But you just keep loading them into your garden, and eventually a bunch of them will stay there. But it's funny because you can, I basically put them in a little seed tray planter um, when I get them cleaned up, and basically just to get them used to a human being nearby for a day or two, and then they don't run away as quickly. And I just occasionally I just put like a little like a shower mirror next to them to see what happened because I was curious. Motherfucker actually passed the mirror test and went up, touched the mirror, looked at its fucking hand, looked at the mirror, looked at its hand again, and figured it out.
Huh? That's neat.
And then I didn't pass the Rouge test though. I marked one of them on the face. They'll shed their skin. I marked one on the face with some Sharpie, and it would not. It didn't figure it out. I thought I was another lizard all of
Huh?
a sudden.
Well, that's
But it
interesting.
was cool that it was able to pass the mirror test and see itself. So all kinds of creatures will pass both tests though. Gorillas can pass the Rouge test. So
That,
are they sentient? They're sentient, but are they sentient like humans are? Probably not.
I would say the answer to that is a
But they're not
hard
that far
yes,
away.
but there's a lot of soft no in that hard yes.
Exactly. They're not that far away. So there's a large sliding scale between a virus and a human in terms of complexity. And the fact that a lizard can recognize itself in the mirror, barely, and a gorilla can like Coco can or could because poor creature's dead, but Coco is capable of not just like if you saw the Robin Williams stand up where he talked about Coco, it was amazing. He described a creature that was capable of fundamentally understanding the concept of death and imprisonment, and
That's
was able to do it through sign language, which is nuts.
pretty
You know,
impressive.
where's my cat? Oh, the cat died. Oh, I missed the cat. And then, of course, that it engendered the concept, the ideas. Where does free will come into this? Very, very crazy stuff. But yeah, when we talk about these Xenobots, I just like, yeah, be really careful, man.
Oh yeah, no,
Because
absolutely.
once it's out, it's out. And no amount of fire will get rid of it at that point, unless you want to nuke the whole planet. By which point, we should probably be on Mars if we want to do that. Because we only get one of these planets so far.
Yeah, and this one's pretty nice, so we'd be better
And
just
our
to
best,
not fuck this one over.
our yeah, our best estimates on terraforming is about a century or more. So we got to manage to not fuck up for another 100 years, and that's if we get to Mars now. Um, and
Well,
I don't think Elon's going to bring the terraforming towers. You get my drift there. Yeah,
that's,
that's going to be a couple centuries later, maybe.
well, I don't even know if I'd say a couple centuries later. I'd say, I mean, if we're
I
being
would,
honest,
I
and
think
somebody's
within
if we're going to Mars and the money is there, that's gonna get
well,
started real
it takes
quick.
time. No, so here's the thing: is the terraforming takes time. There's
Oh
not an
no, it
amount of
absolutely
money you
does. I
can
mean,
throw
it's
into
not
it.
something you just can do
I would
overnight
say that within
without.
our lifetimes, I bet you we're going to see plans that are feasible, functional, and have been somewhat tested somewhere, maybe on Earth or on the Moon,
Well,
just to show that, like as a demo project. I bet you are going to see in our lifetime a meaningful initialization of the process, at
well,
least domestically. You know, without having scaled it to actually being functional on Mars. I bet you we're going to at least we're going to see the infrastructural design happen. How do we make something big enough that will actually scale to the size of a small planet? And keep in mind, Mars is the size of the Earth, or of the Earth's inner core. Sorry, outer core. It's not that big. It's the size of Earth's core, um, but it is big enough to hold an atmosphere. Just that the downside, we'd have to find a way to start a planet if we want to keep an atmosphere there too. Because without a molten core, kind of a kind of a big deal. You can look up and you see there's a nice blue sky that hasn't been stripped away by the solar wind. That's largely because of our magnetosphere. I mean, we're closer than Mars is. We may have more gravity, but that doesn't stop the solar wind from buffeting the atmosphere unless it gets diverted by the magnetosphere. So Mars does not have a magnetosphere. Well, it has one, but it's from the solid rock having a fixed magnetization to it. It's not from a dynamo inside the planet, slowly slowing down the rotation of the planet, etc., etc.
right
So
on that
basically,
specific.
our planet's trading momentum with the magnetic field of the sun to a certain degree, and part of that is part of what reinforces the dynamo. And then the dynamo effect itself is what keeps the dynamo going. Uh,
Self-regulating
yeah,
cycle or something like that.
sorry, trading angular momentum, I could say, not linear momentum.
You know, on that specific note, I found something really interesting. I was kind of on the fence about going over it, but
Yeah.
I mean, we're kind of on the topic, so let me just I'll drop the article for you here.
Okay.
And it's something that should absolutely fascinate you because this
Oh boy.
is the future for
Tiny crystal.
off-world solar, especially like specifically
Fool's
off-world.
gold.
Yeah, yeah, they're using iron pyrite,
That's awesome.
and they're wanting to make basically rolls of
Ooh,
solar
I heard
material.
about this. No, okay, it wasn't this one particular. So there's two things. This one was really cool. There's another thing. I don't think it was. I think it was just the fact that it's gold colored that reminded me of this. There's another technology that came out not that long ago for hydrogen storage that involves a tape of I believe it was a semiconducting tape, but it will adsorb hydrogen onto it, and it can be rolled out really thin, like it can be really produced in really thin sheets.
Mm-hmm.
So it's flexible like a glass, and it's like having a tape canister. You can just like you can use a laser to heat it up and release the hydrogen.
Well, that's pretty dope.
It was yeah, and here's the thing: at a gas station, if you use a cartridge-based technology like that at a gas station, it'd be as simple as swapping out the cartridge. It would reduce the fuel up time down to minutes, a couple minutes, instead of like say an EV which takes fucking 3 hours or more.
Well, let's be honest. The newest EVs and the newest chargers, they don't get to 100%. It's not the advertised thing. It's 30 minutes to 80%.
I was gonna say there's a 30-minute charge one, yeah, but
And
that's
that's good.
because
That's
Tesla pushed that
very
shit.
reasonable. And that's actually, I mean, that is a
That's
good thing
still a
to aim
fucking
for.
half hour. That's
It
still a
is.
fucking half hour.
It is a half hour.
Imagine cutting that down. Imagine cutting that down to a sixth of the time, though. Imagine a 5 minute change.
Well,
That's about a gas
well,
gallon right now.
yeah, it would be it would be taking something of an onerous process into, okay, well, that too, you consider that cars aren't made for that right now. If you make a car for that, it
Oh
would
yeah.
really be as
But the cool thing
painless
is,
as replacing your gas every time. You just go to your
yeah.
hydrogen receptacle, press the thing comes out, you pull it out, you give it to them, you get the new one, and you just plug it in and you
Yeah.
go.
So now I've taken us down that little detour back to the iron pyrite.
Yeah.
This is nifty. So I mean, so the solar cell is pretty straightforward as to its requirements.
Sure.
Iron pyrite is fantastic because it's cheap and readily available.
Oh yeah, it's
And
everywhere.
the MIT professor that was in charge of the molten salt batteries project, his TED Talk presentation on it, he had a very good quip. Don't judge him for using the old adage, but if you want to make something cheap as dirt, make it out of dirt.
Sure enough.
So he
And
basically, for his grad students, he took an abundance chart of transition metals, and he basically circled everything below a certain abundance, and he said these are off limits. And he said figure out how to store energy.
huh.
So if you want to make it cheap as dirt, make it out of dirt. Iron and sulfur are everywhere.
True enough. True enough. And the specific purpose they were looking at this is for lunar missions or settlements, which,
Right.
I mean, it's perfect. It's
Well, yeah.
absolutely littered with the stuff. So there would be just not merely an abundance, an overabundance. You're not going to run
Well,
out for the task.
it's like going to the middle of the Arizona desert and saying, "Where do I find sand?"
Yeah. It's like
It's
you're in a quarry and you're
fantastic.
like, man, I could really use some gravel.
So one of the main issues that you'd have with producing a solar, because like, you can hear someone in the back screaming at this point. What about all of the silica? Couldn't we just make ourselves some solar cells? The problem with polysilicon and polycrystalline and monocrystalline silicons is they have to be very pure, and then they have to be doped appropriately to make the PN junction you need in order to generate your photoelectric effect properly. If you don't have good purity in your silicon, then it will not work. Period. And so that is a very energy intensive process. It takes a lot of energy to get done.
And if I'm
And
not
while if we
mistaken,
had
there's some
enough
real
energy,
nasty chemicals involved in that process too.
well, so here's the thing: is it's not so bad. If you're on Mars, it's not so bad because you'd be inside of a hab, and your fab system would just send all of the gases out into the atmosphere, and it's not so bad then because you walk outside in a suit, you know.
Right.
So any fluorines that are involved, any of that kind of stuff would not be an issue. One of the major downsides for getting pure sand, or sorry, getting not just pure sand, but getting pure silicon, is you have to use a lot of carbon to get rid of all the oxygen bound to it. And keep in mind, like Mars' surface is very oxidized, very iron rich, and it's rich in enough of the right stuff to make pyrite-based solar cell much more attractive. There's a lot of iron silicates as well on the surface, so you do have a lot of silicon available,
Sure.
but you don't have as much carbon. And carbon is kind of the way we rip the oxygen off of the silicon. Now you can just heat the shit out of it and then turn it into a plasma and then basically use a centrifuge process, which is stupid because it's really expensive and really inefficient. And again, so just keep in mind like how much energy you need to make a new bit of stuff to make energy. It could be an exponential process once you get started, but that activation energy, that hump at the beginning to get over into the production phase, is difficult to get over with any of these other kind of processes.
Oh,
Iron
sure.
pyrites are cheap and accessible.
Absolutely. And uh, accessible theoretically just about everywhere. Because
Yeah.
from what we know so far, iron is incredibly common everywhere in the
Well,
universe.
it's the death product of a star. It's the last thing that a star makes before it croaks. Iron, when you produce iron, if you try to fuse, so if you look at the energy that is, so the curve for energy from fusion, it starts off, and keep in mind that going up means producing less energy for per fused pair, and the next step has to be above in order for there to be an energy difference that produces a net energy gain, a net energy output. So you start off really low with hydrogen, and you build your way up this curve, and then there's a peak at iron, and then everything after that is downhill. So everything after iron, if you want to fuse iron with something, it will consume energy to do it. So when stars produce iron in their core, the ghost is given up. The iron does not fuse with anything else and starts cooling the center of the star. And at that point, the outer like for the outer layers start to crash in once this starts going kind of out of control, and they will the outer layers of the sun will scream in close to half the speed of light and then bounce off of the core and after they crush it in the middle. And that starts with making a white dwarf. If it's any, much bigger than our sun, you start to get the things like neutron stars, and then much bigger than that, you get the black holes. So, and then those come with their own kinds of energy release that are outside of this scope. But like just our sun alone, once it starts making iron in about 4 or 5 billion years, it's going to collapse because it consumes energy. So iron is going to be everywhere a star has exploded. Should be very common once stars have been produced.
Yeah, well, I mean, we could look
So
up and see the sparkle, so it's out there.
think of it like this: it should be no small wonder to you that we're made out of things like carbon, oxygen, nitrogen, iron, hydrogen. All of these are very common elements because they're all produced by stars on their way to producing iron. And
So,
then stars blow up, and then we get some of the other stuff as trace metals from the RNS processes, depending on where we've been in the galaxy. Um, so near a neutron star, not near a neutron star. Sorry, colliding neutron stars. So they slow and fast processes. It used to be the common knowledge that those only happened when a star went through some kind of nova process. So solar, say when our sun collapses or any other star collapses and produces something like a neutron star or a black hole, they do produce a lot of these heavier elements during those processes, but the neutron stars colliding produce a significant excess because neutron star matter is basically a bunch of neutrons, and those will decay. And as they do so, as globs of those get flung out from a collision, um, those decay products are all heavy elements. It's like seeding the universe with element number 5,000 instead of number like 100. They very rapidly will break down and will fly apart under fission, but the byproducts are all over the periodic table.
so in
So iron should be very common.
oh
Iron
yeah,
should be very, very common, and it is. And it's because that's where stars die.
or
Sulfur, another
in the
very common element because before iron.
in the words of a cringy bald man, we're all made of
Oh
stars.
boy. Oh, that's not so cringy. A lot of scientists say that shit.
No, no, I'm just saying the
Don't you start
particular.
going to spreading that bullshit around on me here.
Are you going to tell me that Moby isn't cringy?
He's fucking cringy.
Okay, then we are in agreement.
We're still all made of stardust.
We might be, but
This is
we
actually
are in scientific accord as to the cringiness of Moby.
Oh, speaking of scientific accord, this is a fun. This is a new news item, but
Oh, this is
the
going to be good.
and I don't have it on me at the time at this time, but I had gone over on the Twitters before, went up back and forth with someone who was being a dipshit. That 97%, and this only comes up because of the way the founder of the Weather Channel spanked Brian Stelter on air over anthropogenic global warming, as it was known at the time before it became climate change. The 97% figure, and I think we might even probably cover this a couple times before. It's bullshit, and it was admitted as bullshit in the sociology paper that produced it. Because science is not a democracy; it is science. So Brian Stelter tried to go in and say, "Oh, but the 97% figure," and unfortunately, founder of his name escapes me at the moment, but it should be well known to people who've bothered to watch the Weather Channel for any long period of time. He basically said he made the mistake of saying some things that weren't as true, but the 97% figure is bullshit, and it's because the vast majority of people who write papers on climatology, in the climatology field rather, do not take a specific position for or against anthropogenic impact unless the data specifically says so, and if the data says so, they say the data says this. Because most of the people publishing in those fields are scientists, not activists. And so the 97% is really 97% of people who took strong opinions. It was a 5-point scale. And the best part about this paper is it says the shit in the abstract. That it doesn't say the word bullshit, but it basically means bullshit. They wanted a flashy number to throw into the abstract, and they got it. But of the people who took a strong position, as in a 1 or a 5 on the scale, 97% said that it's because of humans. And then if you extended that out a little bit, you look at the people who are, say, a 3 on that scale, and it's like, fucking no. It's like more than 2/3. I think it's like 67%, 68% of scientists that published. And keep in mind, their study was biased, and they admitted this. So when you admit these kind of things, it's important that you reflect on it further when you describe it. But also, that's the good science part of it. They actually did a reasonable job at writing the paper on this, and the data set is public. But they had a specific search with specific keywords and specific databases to collect papers, and they got them. And they sent them out to. There was about 11,000 odd papers. 11,500 papers. They sent them out to two different people, and they basically made sure that they got 2 people to rate them on that scale, and they had 2 other ratings, but they were not in the 5-point scale part of it.
You don't say.
But it was strongly against humans causing it, no position for humans causing it, and strongly for humans causing it. And they had it on a percentage basis. Did they take a position, yes or no? And then if they took a position, did they say it was greater than 50% caused by humans or not? And so they had people judge that, and then those judgments were the 1 to 5 scale. And they from that they were able to weed out on the 1 and 5 ends of things that 95% of people were on the 5 end of things. Yes, definitely humans caused it. And then the other side of it was the 3% that said no. But if we get in the greater context, it's like less than a percentage of people that said that humans definitely don't cause it, and that's a very small minority of people that say, yeah, definitely, humans are definitely causing it. It's ridiculous that they ever allowed that 97% number to be repeated, because it's complete bullshit.
Well, I mean, the
it's
most
like
perfect example
in the fucking Florida election.
Well, the most purple, ha ha ha. The most perfect example of this, and as it applies to other fields of study and science, is human rights, specifically gun rights. You know, they completely
Sure.
they'll move around the decimal points, and they'll completely discount very good science and very good studies to just push the narrative. Because if we look at the hard numbers from the CDC, based on the last study they had, guns are used more than 2 million times in any given year to protect human life. And more often than not, these situations result in no violence on the side of the perpetrator.
A lot of times, just saying you have a gun is what stops the violence.
Or showing, but the fact that a gun is involved. The fact that there is a gun involved on the side of the defender completely diffuses the situation. More often than not. Sometimes it doesn't. And then we get situations, you know, like Kenosha, where
right.
You've got to do what you got to do. And sometimes the court, you know, sides with reason. And sometimes they don't. They side with the prosecutor. But, you know, a really good segue from exactly what you're talking about right now. I just linked it up in our staff chat. Yeah. The global CO2 emissions. It would appear that the real data tells us that they haven't really been...
All right, as long as this isn't like some natural news website.
No, Carbon Brief.
Yeah, I'm still not familiar. Okay, Global Carbon Project projects that fossil emissions in 2021 will reach 36.5 billion tons, only 20% below pre-pandemic high of 36.7. All right, I don't know why they're switching between billion tons and gigatons.
That's ridiculous.
That's already annoying me. I'm gonna be a nitpicker, but like still,
that's fair enough. But I mean,
right, they did introduce. Okay, I see. They did introduce it in parentheses. That's all right. So this is written for more of a lay reader. Then I guess it's probably their target audience.
Undoubtedly.
They're expecting some sort of rebound. They're expecting a rebound, but we've continued fucking the economies. I'm not seeing why they would expect it to be bigger.
Right? Well, no, people have got more money to spend now, don't you know?
That's a full fucking explanation there for that difference, that discrepancy. See, the 2021 almost halves the estimate of net emissions from land use change over the past few years by an average of 25% over the past decade. All right. The study, which is not yet peer-reviewed, is the 16th annual global carbon budget. Okay. So key points, they want to pick out 4 key points here. China and India both surpassed their emission peaks in 2021, or their 2019 emission peaks.
And a quick note on that too, they are under no obligation under any current law or treaty to do a goddamn thing about it for at least 9 more years.
Or agreement. We gotta be clear about this. The Paris Agreement is not a treaty per se.
No.
There isn't any legal requirement of any party involved.
That is true.
Beyond when they submit a policy that they will be evaluated later by themselves. They will evaluate themselves later. Yeah, so China and India both did not. So China promised that they would stop increasing the rate of increase. They would stop accelerating their production of CO2 by 2035 or whatever the fuck it was. And clearly, they're still growing their emissions because it grew by 5.5% between 2019 and 2021. India's emissions grew by 4.4%. India made a similar claim. I don't remember the year, and I think it was just that they would stop increasing their general rate. I think it was the same kind of acceleration argument. Chinese coal use was a particularly large driver of global rebound in emissions, with the power and industry sectors in China the main contributors. That's not a surprise. Coal, oil, and gas all fell during the pandemic, but coal and gas emissions have already surpassed pre-pandemic levels with a 2% increase in gas emissions, 1% increase in coal emissions. This is also not a surprise, given the oil scenario in 2021.
Yeah, surprise! You raise the price of a fuel source, and people start using other ones.
Well, it's not just that; it's also that there's Russian pipelines involved. You might remember the whole Germany situation.
Oh yeah, and that Nord Stream 2 pipeline that old Joe said, "Hey, that's a good idea. You should do that."
Yeah, then the fucking up the one that was going to go from Canada to Mexico and
Oh
allow us
yeah,
to
the
go.
one that would have helped us out. Yeah, he said that's a bad idea. You shouldn't do that. I'm going to break the
Yeah.
legally
So
binding contracts that have
and
already been
then
signed and put into paper.
yeah, and then we bailed out China by releasing 50 billion barrels of our own crude, from our national supply. And you got to keep in mind that that's all sour crude, which is sulfur rich, which means that we cannot process it here by law. Otherwise, the EPA would have a field day taking everyone to court.
Note, by
Um,
law, we could, but the EPA is going to do what they do.
so, well, we're not allowed to process that much sulfur in oil. It's just not allowed. We need to dilute the sour crude with the sweet crude from Saudi Arabia. But you might have seen where Biden was saying everyone open up your reserves so we can get OPEC Plus to drop their prices and increase production. It's because he wants domestic oil to increase production, but his only way to do that is to send oil to China. So we look like we're letting our oil go, but we're not actually fixing our fucking problem at home.
Oh, not even remotely.
And instead, we could have gone for, say, Venezuelan or Argentinian crude, both of which are sweeter than in the U.S. So they're better for production. But anyway, so we sold our fucking oil to China because reasons, and then China is supposedly going to be backing off pressure via BRIC, so Brazil, Russia, India, and China,
Theoretically.
on OPEC plus. But of course, it's not going to happen fast at all. Period. That fantastic chart of a 2 cent drop was just brilliant memeing.
Oh,
So,
yeah.
yeah, the Democrat commission, the Democrat coalition or whatever the hell committee, coalition committee, the DCCC decided to release a graphic that only had like 3 days or
Huh.
whatever,
I wonder why.
and it had a 2 cent drop on the price of gas or oil. Or, it doesn't matter what the fuck it was. It was a 2 cent. It's 2 cents. You guys are assholes.
Yeah.
And then someone showed here's what they forgot and had like the rest of the plot from like a year and a half of history. It just shows this gigantic rise when Biden comes in.
Yeah. Yeah, it's funny how if you kill how if you kill energy independence, you end up not being energy independent.
Yeah. All right, and then the fourth point is oil emissions remain around 6% below 2019 levels, and this persistent reduction is one of the main reasons 2021 emissions did not set a new record. And that's probably largely due to decreased production and decreased gasoline usage, um, overall on the planet. So the refining capacity is the same or larger because there have been projects that have been going through for building things, even though there's not as crazy demand right now. So some contracts that were signed were not canceled, and so the capacity is there, but the flow of fucking fuel is not. And keep in mind also that the tar sands are not going to produce sour crude. We could not only refine that product for Canada and Mexico, which is a service which employs Americans, but
AKA gives them jobs.
buy, we could also buy some of that production capacity for domestic use. Meaning, we could say instead of just paying you for the finished product, can we set up a contractual compromise where you give us the oil and and as a bargaining chip on your price of our refining capacity, give us some of the oil so that we can use it as gas at home. It's basically skipping the U.S. dollar middleman.
Whoa, skipping the
That was all kind
middleman?
of
Well, the Fed's not going to
yeah.
be having that.
Well, they're gonna get their piece of the pie. Don't you worry about that. But like the whole point is there was contractual negotiations that were available domestically that would have increased the fuel supply in Mexico, which will allow them to build some of the factories that were bringing production capacity back from fucking China. Like it wasn't all going to be made in USA. The USMCA, whatever the fuck it was, USMCA,
Yeah.
the one that was done under Trump,
Yeah.
that involved Canada, US, and Mexico, and part of that arrangement was going to be bringing jobs back to this hemisphere.
Yeah, not just the U.S. There were going to be jobs in Canada and jobs in Mexico. Good ones, even. Like career jobs.
Just
Like
North
build a
America,
family jobs.
just this continent would have had a lot more jobs. Mexico would have been richer. A richer Mexico means they can afford to do things like take care of their cartel problems. They can afford to ask for help without looking weak. They can get rid of some of Mexico's interlinking into their cartel problems. Their cartel problems have gotten so bad that a lot of the fentanyl that used to be coming directly from China to Mexico to funnel up into the U.S., a lot of it has become importing precursors so that they can make the fucking fentanyl in Mexico. They've gotten to the point where they've established laboratory assistance in Mexico. They now have the ability to produce the fentanyl instead of just importing it, which makes China look a hell of a lot better when they don't lose fentanyl stock in their companies. They don't have to say, "Oh, well, it just went missing." Now they can say, "I have no idea what happened to the fentanyl. None of that was produced here."
Right, and when you're a cartel, nobody's really checking on your precursor chemical orders.
The only people that are going to be other cartels trying to steal it.
Right, yeah. Or maybe somebody at a Mexican port, which good luck finding one that hasn't been bought off.
Yeah, it's nuts. Like it's funny with the way that the ports are purchased in that fashion. I mean, the Mexican government knows where its bread's buttered. All the tourist traps are very, very well guarded. If they had the money to pay people well enough to compete with cartels, if they had the capital inside the country to do that, they would run out of the cartels would run out of people to support them. It'd be better paying to hunt the cartels down.
Well, that's what it is.
One of those things that that's what you need is to legitimize the industry that they have down there. You need to make it better paying to legitimize it. And the fact is that would happen if you gave them a lot of new production jobs. And it'd be right there. We wouldn't have to pay to ship things across a third of the fucking planet across the Pacific.
With however much time is related to loading and unloading of those docks.
Oh, it's time, it's fuel. I mean, it's physically a shorter distance to Mexico from the U.S. It's right there.
Indeed it is. We have roads that go there, actually.
Right.
We even have train tracks that cross the border.
And, if we had a wall, that would allow us to correctly itemize all of the transactions across the border. Hell, you might even have good enough arrangements that you wouldn't need one, say like we do with Canada. Although, I'd also say that it'd probably be a good idea to wall off Canada while Trudeau is anywhere near power.
Yeah, I mean... Well, I don't know. There's a lot of innocent Canadian refugees that could benefit from a new life in America. I mean, they already speak the language. They're generally fairly pleasant folks.
If they want to move to like Wisconsin, I guess they could keep their boots and they're all their sweater Mexican lingo.
Well, I'll tell you what, I would much rather that we get a bunch of Canuckistanis than Somalis. I would rather there be a little Canada in Milwaukee than a little Somalia.
You know what I like about the Canadians? Most of them are vaccinated against things like measles, mumps, and rubella. You know who aren't? You know who's breeding measles up in the northeast of the U.S.?
Let me guess.
All the fucking Somalis we imported. It's not just the snake oil soccer moms over in California. It's unfortunately Ilhan's district.
Her people, if you will.
Chock full of fucking measles. It's sad because it's a really bad disease for kids. It's horrifying. It destroys your immune system, you're not able to fight off simple common cold kind of infections for months after a measles infection concludes.
Oh, and I'll tell you what, this is really not the time to have a problem like that,
Right. Well, I mean, the same thing kind of goes for COVID. Your immune system is it's not shot like with measles, but it's pretty badly damaged for a couple months. And a couple months is a really long time when it comes to a disease. Like the common cold goes, most people are used to getting the cold like once a year or so. Well, I mean, that can be within 2 months of getting over COVID.
True, true.
I mean, you've got a sinus issue going on. In my household, we've got a cough going around. I'm lucky I've been able to basically stay away from people and so on. But I do interact with the other people in my house, so I'm probably on the way to getting it. And thank
Entirely
fuck it's
possible.
not COVID, but at the same time, like, oh, that's annoying.
Oh, holy shit! I found the news article from
Oh
BuzzFeed
boy,
about the CIA files on
BuzzFeed.
sex crimes
That's
with
the
kids and everything.
funniest shit, isn't it?
I've been looking
Fucking
for this fucking
Buzzfail
thing for a
coming in with
minute.
some of these.
Ah, hell yeah, I've got it. Nice. This is
Fucking Buzzfail coming in with some of these clutch reporting stories. Who would have ever thought
man.
they'd do better?
It's the craziest shit. BuzzFeed is now a legit news organization.
But
How in the
only
fuck
in
did
the
that
weirdest
happen?
shit, though.
Oh yeah,
Only
no.
in the weirdest stuff, though.
Yeah, it's like
Everything else,
sometimes they'll
it's the
have
same
some
kind of
dumb
listicle
shit,
integrity.
but then they'll have like some really excellent article on fucking geopolitics or something. And you can buy BuzzFeed branded cookware. I mean, everything is so clown show these days.
So before we get onto that, like, what? So while you're posting that into the staff chat for me, that Karlin Borchenko. So I saw that and I thought she was being sarcastic. So I said to someone else, thank you, Alex. Blah blah blah. Said was it thank you, Alex? I'll take I'll take sarcasm for $800. And then someone immediately says, this didn't age well, blah blah. And it's all right, fine. But then I saw something from Carlin that said, a rare moment of clarity, and I saw it, and it's quoting someone that says, I frankly think she's trolling everyone. So, at this point, I think that, like, I'm not sure if this is going, like, the Amos Yee direction of, she's trolling so hard she's gonna fall right into it, or if it's just her being a troll, because this could be some crazy Poe action here, but without actually having like a second account to make it funny. I think it would be funny if she's legitimately going down the road that she's going down. It's goofy. Like she's not saying what people are thinking she's saying, where she's saying Hitler's okay.
Yeah, I'll put a link to this.
She already explained like her personal beliefs on some things. And she's saying, I'm not going to apologize for my personal beliefs, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
And it's funny, though. He's like, in Judaism, there is not a concept of hell. And depending on the sect of Judaism, there's something that's somewhat like purgatory, but it's not actually purgatory. For the more common Christian concept of purgatory. It's kind of like a waiting line to get into heaven, almost. So, technically, in Judaism, Hitler kind of has to go to heaven at the end. Because there is no concept of like a hell to go to. There's not like poof, you're out of existence. It's everyone has a soul and all souls go to heaven. So technically, I mean, I don't think she's Jewish, so there's that side of things.
Well, she had mentioned. Okay, let's get the tweet up because it's really fucking weird and it's worth actually quoting.
Okay.
So let me get that because it's fucking bizarre. I mean, it legitimately is.
I can skin the BuzzFeed while we do this. Oh my god. Oh, that's what I was remembering from Twitter. That's really bad. You just click on general, you can see the tweet right there.
Oh, tweet violated the Twitter rules. Oh, well, I guess I
definitely go to general and the text channels and just look at it. It's still there.
Yeah, okay, here we go. I will read this off. Yeah, because it doesn't exist anymore. Because,
right.
Well, it got reported, and
someone got offended.
well, anyway, I'll read it, and you can see whether you could understand why a person might be offended. So she said in response to somebody, Yes, they do. Everyone who died in the Holocaust chose to die in the Holocaust.
Well, she says choose. Read it as she wrote it.
Oh, my bad. My bad. Everyone in the everyone who died in the Holocaust choose to die in the Holocaust before they were ever born because they collective wanted to understand the experience of ultimate oppression. That's why Hitler went to heaven. So that's a spicy tweet. That's a real spicy guy.
Yeah. Now, the tweet that I submitted there is her quoting someone else that says, "I frankly think she's trolling everyone." And she says, "A rare moment of clarity," with ellipses.
Now, mind you, we've seen all sorts of people say some real wild shit and then be like, I was only pretending to be retarded.
Right.
So, take that with as large a grain of salt as you like. Maybe a very large one even might be wise. And as my comment to that, I kind of don't think she is being ironic because.
Yeah, I can see why someone would say that too, and I'm on the edge there of that one. I'm leaning towards your opinion here, where it's
she had another follow up fairly quickly after that, which is basically like, listen, I'm not a Christian. I believe in the cycle of life and death and rebirth. I'm paraphrasing. I can't remember exactly.
So I guess,
but she believes in reincarnation.
I don't think she's Christian.
And she was like, these people, they're reincarnated for a reason, energy flows, et cetera, et cetera.
So she's got some weird ass belief, which is why, so I can see why she'd say that, but I could also see why it would look like a spicy take that it's not.
Well, I mean, it's a spicy take.
I mean, but no matter what happens there, that's a pretty straight up crazy thing to say there.
Oh, it is. It is. It absolutely is. Speaking of crazy
things,
the
context. That's all.
I've got an interesting note for everyone. You probably might not even be aware of this yourself. Back in 1990, as I can't remember what part of greater spending it was.
Some of you were a fetus or less.
Fair.
Maybe you
fair.
a twinkle.
But the 1990, there was a Gun-Free School Zones Act. It was part of some greater spending bill, and basically that made it so that you could no longer have like rifle teams at schools. You couldn't have any kind of guns. The school resource officer wasn't even supposed to have a gun, and that's only fairly recently changed, like last decade. I want to say less than that.
Well, in response to school shootings going up because that gun-free zone stuff just didn't fucking work.
Yeah, it's funny how gun-free zones are target-rich zones.
What was that? Her name? Something Clifford or whatever. That a woman who I think she was in Texas or Arizona, but her mom got shot.
Oh, Giffords.
And thank you. And she wasn't able to do shit about it because her gun was in the car. Because
no, that's not Giffords. Giffords is the organization that made it so that happened to her.
Okay.
But yeah, I know exactly the story you're talking about, and I can quickly summarize it. A robber comes in to start shit. Either a robber or just a fucking straight out crazy person comes in, starts just fucking shooting people up, ran their car into the place, if I'm not mistaken. Like, rammed their car through the fucking side of the building, just comes in, starts killing people like a crazy person. And this girl, she was with her father in a restaurant that had a gun-free zone sign up, and so being the law-abiding citizen that she was, she thought, you know what? I'm just going to go ahead and follow the rules. And, this psycho went and killed her dad. Shot her right in front of her.
Dad paid for it. Yeah. And then she ran for office and I think got that shit repealed in her state. I can't recall, though. I think she was advocating for it. But yeah, it's basically gun-free zone stuff just didn't fucking matter.
Yeah, gun-free zones cost people lives. I can tell you about another really noteworthy gun-free zone. Yeah. There's this theater in Aurora, Colorado, you might have heard of.
Oh my god.
Also a gun-free zone. Something happened there.
There was any school shooting you've heard of in the last, I don't know.
Since 1990.
Decades. Yeah, a few decades, huh?
Yeah.
Any school shooting. Oh, the gun-free zones should have prevented all those. Didn't happen.
Well, an interesting point about that gun-free zones, Gun-Free School Zones Act. Guess who co-sponsored it?
Was it Biden?
It was. It was old Negro Joe himself.
Oh my god.
Old Joe Biden can have some of the responsibility for the Oxford High School shooting laid at his feet. Maybe if one of those teachers had been armed, like they were able to be for all of the fucking history of America up until 1990, maybe they could have done something.
You know what's interesting about that? Now that CNN no longer has Chris Cuomo, maybe they'll fucking cover something like that.
Yeah, right, okay. As long as
Maybe
the people in charge of that glow, they are not going to.
It's not happening, but, you know, now that they've gotten rid of one of the problematic people there, maybe they can continue with Brian Stelter, Don Lemon, and just about everyone else that's on TV.
A lot of work to be done, but it's work that needs doing.
Stelter has been salivating over that 9 p.m. slot since the 29th. Absolutely salivating over it. He's not going to get it. His chubby ass would get it, though, and that would be hilarious.
Oh,
He's not going to get it.
Isn't Stelter, like, in his middle 20s, too?
He is younger than me. He's in his early 30s.
Oh, his early 30s.
He's younger than me.
Like, that dude...
By a year or two. He looks older than me.
He looks like a Batman villain, point one. And point two...
He looks kind of like the Penguin, doesn't he?
Yes!
Like the Penguin's son or something.
Absolutely, fucking son of Penguin. Absolutely. But, I mean, the guy's, like, not old, and he's got really good skin.
I refer to him as the illegitimate love child of George Costanza and the Pillsbury Doughboy.
That's fair. That's fair. Well, maybe with just a splash of Gollum in there for my precious.
For the 9 p.m. slot now.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Precious prime time. Yes. So
he's a chief media correspondent. He's supposed to be the CNN watchdog, and he's admitted all the shit that we mentioned earlier on air.
Yeah.
How much shit has he overlooked? And how many of those?
How much shit has he
slices?
Pointedly
slices already exist in his ass. Yeah. Like, I just sit there thinking, like, okay, so he probably knows what horrifying shit came to light that got the immediate termination at this point. Even though he's not saying it on air and he says he doesn't know. He probably fucking knows now.
Very, very likely. Well, I mean, we can just take a look at this from a purely objective standpoint. And having access to the information we have now, we know that at the time that Chris Cuomo was talking about, you can't do this, you can't do that, it's not right when Donald Trump does these things, we have since learned that he was actively, for possibly decades, covering up for his brother and actively doing investigations on people with credible allegations against him.
And who knows, maybe even partaking.
Maybe. Yeah, maybe. Who knows? Maybe he had one of those door lock buttons under his desk, too.
Oh, my God. Stories that get buried so quickly. How do these fucking media orgs continue to exist?
Because they are the media orgs.
Every airport should just switch to, like, daytime court TV. At this point, there's no fucking reason to keep the news on in an airport anymore. And anybody who's getting news in an airport is getting it from their fucking phone anyway.
Well, you know, I will say that I would like to see airports just switch entirely to RSBN and OANN, but, you know, I don't see it happening.
I don't like the same shit coming from the other direction. It's just like, all right, now you're doing that. I don't care if they even. I even don't care if they have any integrity now. It's gonna go away as fast or faster than CNN. Remember, CNN has only been around for so long. Fox News has already gone down that hole. There's only a few good people still at Fox News. It didn't take them very long to do that.
Well, you have to remember, there's a concerted media push to basically make all media, how should I say, homogenized.
Yeah. Speaking of homogenized.
Oh?
The at least 10 people at the CIA that should be food processed.
Amongst other intelligence organizations.
Sexual crimes involving children. Like, the funny thing is, as outrageous as a lot of shit that Alex Jones says, and as with little evidence as he says it, why the fuck is he right some of these times, you know?
Why is he right so
This would
many
be one of
times?
those.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, so here's the funny thing, like, the turning the frogs gay thing, that actually was a legitimate science paper that came out.
Well, most of what he says is. It's just he kind of takes things all the way
He
to
makes
their
it,
end state, which is not
he
an
turns shit up to
unreasonable way of
11.
doing things. You know,
He
that's how
turns
I
shit
do a
up
lot
to
of
11
my.
and he means it. Well, for instance, if people took that shit seriously when it needed to be taken seriously, we wouldn't have had as much of an issue with frogs as we did. But unfortunately, we had people like Alex Jones turn into a giant fucking meme, and nobody would take anybody saying it seriously. So there is reason to say Alex Jones is not actively helping, but it does become part of the public zeitgeist and part of the public conversation.
Well,
Had he not done that, it might have come out on CNN, and then he'd have idiots like I fucking love science going, "Oh God, did you know your shampoo is making the frog LGBTQ community grow?
no, not Pepe.
Respect the frog's pronouns, bigot."
But I will say this: if you
Yeah.
get the chance to look back on anything that Jones did in the late '80s and early '90s, almost without fail, all of his reporting and documentaries from that era have come true to some extent or another. It is absolutely distressing.
So anyway, speaking of Alex Jones is right, over the past 14 years, CIA
Yep.
secretly amassed credible evidence, which means they haven't actually done anything with it yet.
And this is
That at
not
least
even.
10
This
of its
isn't talking
employees.
about giving Viagra to Afghani warlords so that they can rape more boys. This is actually
Right.
inside of the organization.
This isn't about the Bocce Boys at this point.
Right. Just to clarify.
At least 10 of its employees and contractors. So my guess here is that this is subtle subterfuge for 10 employees and then an unspecified number of contractors.
At least.
Committed sexual crimes involving children. That means they raped children. Like it wasn't like, oh well, they accidentally spanked a kid on the ass on an island. No, that means they fucked the kids somehow.
Yeah, and if there was. You know what? I'm not going to finish that thought. I'm not going to finish that thought. Just.
And
Yeah.
though most of these cases were referred to the U.S. attorneys for prosecution, only one of the individuals was ever charged with a crime. Notice they haven't specified a fucking name yet.
Yeah, don't expect them to either.
One employee had sexual contact with a 2-year-old and a 6-year-old. He was
Jesus.
fired. A second employee purchased 3 sexually explicit videos of young girls filmed by their mothers. He resigned. A third employee estimated that he had viewed up to 1,400 sexually abusive images of children while on agency assignments. The records do not say what action, if any, the CIA took against him. That also means that it doesn't specify whether or not it was part of his job to do that. A contractor who arranged for sex with an undercover FBI agent posing as a child had his contract revoked.
Oh, shit, that reminds
So
me.
someone solicited sex with an undercover FBI agent posing as a child, and they just had their contract canceled. The fuck?
Yeah, I've got a little bit of an interesting segue there, as a matter of fact.
Like this is what people would expect a black site to actually be used for.
Oh,
To
yeah.
house these motherfuckers and then just drown them in a cell and then prepare the next one. Just
But in this case, you know, they're the ones who
bad
are
shit.
helping design the black sites.
Right.
So,
Or build them, contractors.
fair, yeah. Maybe a little bit of both. Why not? But, you know, on this very specific note, you're familiar with Sony, right? You've heard of them as an organization? And there's this thing they make. It's fairly popular, called a PlayStation. You may have heard of it.
Oh, not the Sony Playboy?
No, the
That's
PlayStation.
disappointing.
So,
Okay.
the senior vice president of the PlayStation Network, George Cacioppo,
Boros? Okay.
funny, no. He was
Well,
caught
how
by...
many times it's been hacked,
Right. Well, what's happened is this fella, he... actually, I'll just drop you some links in the chat. Anybody listening is going to be familiar with Chris Hansen and his specific and
Chris
well-known brand of entertainment. And it would seem that, this VP of PlayStation Network,
boy, another one.
he was, you could definitely say that it is time to reset the clock. So he was
Fuck
found
me,
out in
man.
one of these
How
just
much of this shit's
volunteer
gonna come
groups.
out in
But
1 week? We got Amos Yee, we got these fucking CIA globots, and now we got this guy.
well, there is some good news to this. It would seem that Sony, being Japanese, surprisingly enough, well, actually no, it
They
does make
make him
sense.
commit Harry
They
Harry.
only well, that'd be nice, but they only support consensual and legal underage relations as it once was in Japan. Isn't any longer. But with that being said, they gave him the fucking boot. He is gone.
Good.
He has been fired, which a lot of
George
places,
Cacioppo.
a lot of people don't do this. A lot of organizations don't. So it's good and it's well timed for it to happen. And I'll put a link
It's
to that. But
George Cacioppo.
now there are not any legal charges at this time. So this is all done.
Well, he was caught by an independent pedophile hunting group known as People versus Preds.
Yeah, so like one of those
That's a good name.
right. I'll put a link to the actual article for you.
Oh god, no! There's a community. There's a community of people that would take that a very different direction, and they should all be burned too.
Can you find those people on a map?
I hate furries. I fucking hate furries.
Not fair.
Well, no, it's the wrong kind of map.
Yeah, not a cartographical variety.
The best part about things like that is you can hear when someone figures it out.
Map? What do you mean map? Oh, you know.
There's always the dejected sigh when it's just like, I get it. That's terrible. Why do these people exist? Why can't we kill them? The problem is, unfortunately, like if prima facie, citizens' murder was allowed, like you'd have to be able to provide physical evidence.
Well, we wouldn't.
Pedophile.
We'd be dealing with a different situation in Ahmaud Arbery. That's for sure.
Yeah, probably.
You know what? I'm going to make a quick comment on that case.
I still think. Go ahead.
There is one charge in that is utterly, undeniably bullshit and never should have been brought. The guy filming, there's no reason he should have been charged.
Him with the murder, yeah.
Yeah, there's no charge you can reasonably put on him. But this all came from the top. It's like, we need to make a scene, and there's federal charges they're working on for those guys too. Just like with Showlinks.
I understand why for 3 people, for one murder, there was 5 murder charges. These are all like the 2 prime numbers do not divide evenly here. There's no like way to say, okay, like how do you get multiple murder charges on one person for killing one person,
or 2 people
not attempted
for
murder.
killing one person,
not attempted murder or anything. No, like that's what I'm saying is that there's 5 murder charges over 3 people.
Yeah, I can almost understand those? 2 charges. Actually, I can totally understand 2 charges.
I can understand 3 charges because there are 3 people. Even like.
Yeah, well, okay, sure. From a purely logistical standpoint, it does make sense.
Yeah. I can understand 3 charges, like just without even going into whether or not they're deserved or not.
Sure.
But how the fuck do you get to 5? Because there's only 3 people that were murdering the one. Somebody had to get at least 2 of those murder charges. And this is all my fault for not going into the details to figure it out even more. But like I can't be fucked at a certain point. I try to figure it out. Like that means somebody got more than 1 murder charge for killing the same guy. And did he get back up and he got killed again? I don't get it. But again, this is more of a curiosity of my ignorance than it is any like serious problem with the DA office. But I'm sure that was not a coincidence either.
Oh yeah, the whole thing's really bad, and I mean, that one's a really ugly situation because we've got a guy who is legitimately a menace, who is legitimately breaking in places, and the previous week had stolen a gun from somebody. So, they don't know if he's armed. They do know that he's been breaking in these places. They've got video of it, and the police have said, hey, you guys should probably be armed, just in case you run into this guy. But even still, they're not cops.
Like, I would say that even with his, like, I would say with the same thing with the Zimmerman situation where he was told, why don't you stay in the vehicle? And even though he said no, like, why would you just say no? Like, they said they're on their way. They said stay in the vehicle. Like he had no like just you don't have to be Captain you don't have to be Captain America there, man. Just stay the fuck in your car and wait for the cops to show up. Even if he's gone, that means there's a police report.
True, true. Yeah,
And
Zimmerman's a
for whatever
complicated
fuck
one.
all good it does, for
Not to say
whatever
that.
fuck all good it does, at least you're gonna be fine at the end of it.
Yeah,
I mean, he could have it could have been that he circled back and shot him in the car. Fine, a fair point. But at the same time, I mean, it's why would they go after the guy when they were told, you should probably stay armed to make sure you're safe? Okay, you're armed and you think you're safe. Why are you going after him now? Okay, fine. He got the gun in the tussle. Why are you still like there? The same kind of shit said with Rittenhouse. I mean, to a certain extent, that there's a much different situation in his case. But I mean, at the same
oh,
time,
night and
people are
day.
saying, why is he there? Why is he there? Why is he doing that? It's like, okay, well, he's armed and he's in that situation.
Well, you know what?
These
Actually,
people weren't
that's
trolling around
actually
their own house.
a really
They were,
good
they were,
point that you make there, though, because when we look at Rittenhouse, we can look at the reasons why he was there, and though they aren't necessarily maybe the best reasons in the grand scheme of things, when looking at it from the point of view of a guy that's basically just a Boy Scout, it's all very reasonable.
Yeah.
But then when you look at these three guys, it's like, you guys,
You're looking for trouble.
if you guys were cops and you did this, you would have not only been justified, you would be in the right. But you're not cops. So
right.
what
are you doing?
So even though you can do this, and maybe you're doing the right thing, and maybe you are making the neighborhood safer, you're not doing so in a way that you're allowed to.
One thing I really hope that comes out of this, and they were on the wrong in this case, is citizens arrest is notoriously hard to do legally. It's as a concept, it's already on shaky ground, but then as a concept in practice, as a legal defense or a legal tool, there are very strict confining guidelines as to how to do that properly, that if you're not aware of, you're just guilty of kidnapping at the least.
True. Well, not only that, too.
Preventing someone from moving anywhere is a false arrest and kidnapping. If you don't let them leave wherever they are.
If your I's aren't dotted and your T's aren't crossed, yes, absolutely.
Like by the way, just blocking somebody in a room that wants to leave the room beyond a casual circumstance. So the I think the quoted case law is to a reasonable person. Like even just like putting your arm across a doorway and saying you can't leave, that can be construed, depending on the reasonability of the person who's involved here, that can be construed as kidnapping or false imprisonment, which is not good in a court.
No.
So like, if they're going after people with a fucking gun, planning on like holding them for the cop, that's the last thing you want to do. That kind of vigilante shit just does not fly in court.
And now, from what I understand, they had spoken with police, and police were on the way. But again, you're not a cop.
They still tried to effect an arrest. Which is a bad idea.
The thing to do, if they were really going to keep doing it, is just keep trailing the guy. If you're really going to. Yeah. And if he comes back to charge at you, you just...
He's coming right for us. Oh, no. Yeah. Still.
You're in a car, and it's a guy with a hammer. That's it. I mean, that is legitimately the situation. You've got a guy in a car. You've got two guys in a truck. One of them's got a shotgun. And you've got some dude without a shirt that has a hammer. I mean, yeah, that hammer could do a lot of damage. But your car is faster than he can jog. I promise you. But again, if that had been, if that was the cops, they'd have been absolutely within their rights because that's their job. And a point I was wanting to make, actually.
They did.
Well, cops would have done that. Well, if they were cops, they would have shot at him as soon as he came at him instead of letting him get up close.
Well, cops have a 20-foot rule, by the way, if we haven't heard about it, and it's a really important thing for a citizen to know. If you're within 20 feet and if you run at them and you cross the 20-foot line, they will shoot you to kill because you're now within their threat circle.
Yeah, probably. I mean, that's their job after all.
But it's what happens, and people don't realize how fast you can cross 20 feet and how short 20 feet is. And it's like you do not approach cops with hostile intent, or even like the visage of hostile intent within 20 feet, or you will be shot.
Well, yeah,
That
I
they are
mean,
trained. That is their training, and you can argue about whether or not it's good or bad, but that is what their training is,
oh
and
yeah.
they will do it.
Well, too, and we look at
I've spoken to enough cops about this kind of shit, which is weird enough on its own to ask anybody about it. Like you talk to them, they'll tell you about that part of their training. It's legitimately that's their direction is to kill a threat that's coming at you, especially within that 20 feet. A knife being wielded, just running at somebody with your hand behind your back. All of that is all justifiable shootings.
well, indeed, and also one of the things that has has kind of changed since we've got these unconstitutional policing authorities that have been basically empowered by the government, like police, for instance, or highway patrol, state police, all these organizations that aren't actually
Well,
constitutional.
if
They've
they're state sheriffs, that's the only constitutional policing.
correct, yeah. Sheriffs are
Just
the
to be
only
clear,
constitutionally
sheriffs
recognized
and
constabulary authority.
there's like a DC police or whatever that's also falls under I think the sheriff category because they don't have a state or statehood.
Right. But what this basically means is that the citizen's arrest, where even though you might even be in your right to do all these things, now that these organizations have come to exist, whether they should or should not, whether they're constitutional or not, they're not. They now have that authority, and though you should, the court's just not going to agree with you because there is an organization that can do that job now. And it's
Yeah. So the only
basically
way you would get to do it is if you're deputized into service by a state sheriff.
pretty much, yeah. So that said,
Which is what the police are technically are.
if you're going to be doing any vigilantism, make sure you go ahead and get your deputy badge, and then you're a-okay.
Right.
You're
I
probably
do
not
encourage
gonna get
vigilantism.
deputized if you go and just tell the sheriff that you're wanting to go out and be Batman. Just saying.
Right.
But hey, you never know. You might have a really permissive sheriff.
Would not encourage doing anything like vigilantism. It's just not. It's not. There are people who are paid to risk their lives to do that for you, regardless of what you think about the job they're doing. They are paid to do that. You are not paid to do that.
Well,
so unless it's like your home, unless it's your backyard, like it was with Rittenhouse, he wasn't paid to do that either. But he was basically where he lived.
Well, actually, that's an interesting argument because it's true he wasn't paid, but he was supposed to be, which has come out in the trial. Interestingly enough.
Yeah, how about that?
Yeah.
Well, here's the other side of this: is I hope he's gonna get paid.
He needs to get paid lots and lots.
He's got a decent payday hopefully coming his way. I think hearsay is that kind of follow-up work is in progress to some degree.
I will say this: I hope that 10% that was set aside for the big guy is still kind of setting aside for this little guy. That's all I'm saying. Yeah, because, there were some comments that were made that were pretty clear-cut during the campaign.
Almost defamatory, you might say.
You could say that. And now, is a video libel or defamation? I wonder.
Spoken word is slander. Written word is libel.
Oh, I guess the whole thing is defamation.
Both are categories of defamation, yes.
Well, maybe you can get him on slander and libel.
Spider-Man movie. You can go right back to a Spider-Man movie if you want those details.
There you go. Thank you, Sam Raimi.
So I resent that. Slander is spoken, libel's written.
Fair enough. Sam Raimi's a gem.
Yeah.
All right, so
I was just talking with my buddy last night. So we went and saw Resident Evil together. That was, by the way, hands down, fucking fantastic. And just an excellent movie. The new it's in theaters right now. The new Resident Evil. Just it is. If you played the video games, it's like it's close. They track really close to the video game in this.
Oh, really?
It's got to be a series reboot at this point, and Skeledario's in there or whatever her name is, the woman from the Maze Runner movies.
Wouldn't know.
And like, sure.
Yeah, I've been divorced from modern media for a while now.
I understand. I gotta tell you, just if you get the opportunity, or you sell the proxies, it's worth paying for, in my opinion. Obviously, if you have a principled take on things, that's not a suggestion to break that.
Yeah, I'm not going to.
But if you regularly go to the movies, this is one that is worth the ticket price.
Oh.
It was really good.
Well, that's cool. I mean, is it as true to the story as the Postal movie now?
So it's not like it's not like 100%. It's really good.
No, I mean that's understandable. To be honest, the Resident Evil story is incredibly convoluted and at times doesn't exactly make sense.
But in this case, like it's really true to it's true enough to the story where you get to see a lot of the iconic settings.
No, that's cool.
From the video games, and like it's fantastic in the way they do the storytelling and the way that they do the comeuppance for certain people and certain characters, their plot lines.
Oh, fair.
It's not as in depth as the recent redo of the Resident Evil 2 game, but like you get the police station, you get the mansion. Nice. All that kind of stuff, and it sets it up beautifully. Like they better make this into a fucking series because goddamn was it good.
Oh,
we thought that there wasn't going to be anything worth watching. We were just going to do dinner.
Oh, really?
And hang out, and then and I said, hey, what about this? I said, I don't know. I said, let's go see it anyway.
Huh.
Saved by luck that it was a fucking great movie. I'm sorry, you're saying something. What about this?
I don't know if I have anything that's tremendously poignant. Just maybe commentary on how I don't really appreciate media, by and large.
Okay.
I might have had something worthwhile to say, but it probably was just more of a screw media, I hate it.
Understandable. Like, here's the thing: is I don't like financially backing Hollywood or whatever. I just don't. I don't like doing it. The only reason it's like getting hammered for me. I'm only going to do that if I'm hanging out with people. Like, unless I've if God forbid it happens, but if my brothers at some point, die before me, I kind of hope I'm first so I can just say, hey, fuck you guys, and then die. I made it to 150. Now it's your turn. But God forbid something like that happens, I know I'm getting hammered that night.
Fair.
You know what I mean? But at the same time, like, I'm not going out of my way to get hammered when I'm just hanging out at home. I might have a drink, or if I'm socializing with people on Discord or what have you, I might get drunk in that case. But like, if I'm just like sitting home watching a movie or something, I'm not gonna do it. Same thing with the movies though. Like, if I'm not going out to hang out with friends or whatever, if I already have something I'm paying for, I may as well go ahead and flex that, like the Scamazon's Prime.
Yeah. Might as well get that free shipping.
Like, I'm not exactly. I may as well get the movies that are quote free with Prime, even though I'm fucking paying for Prime.
Oh, fair. Yeah, I don't even pay for cable, so there's
like
that.
When they say free, when they say free with, that means you've already paid for it.
Oh yeah.
So, I mean, just say I paid for it. Comes with the Prime membership because that's what I paid for.
Oh yeah, no, that's fair. I mean,
I if you can't tell, I hate marketing. Fucking hate it. I understand it, which is part of the reason I absolutely hate it.
Well, no, I mean, if you do understand marketing, you either hate it or tolerate it.
Or you have no soul, and you're in it.
Well, no, even those people, they either hate it or tolerate it. I mean, unless you've moved past the ability to feel human emotions, then yeah, you either hate it or tolerate it. And now, that being said, there's a whole lot of folks in marketing that are not even human people at all. So,
right, as I was saying, there are the hobgoblins that do all the market research and say, "Oh, this is great with this market." So Bill Hicks, fantastic influence on Dennis Leary and influenced himself by George Carlin's early career after he got done with being the butt puppet on TV. Because if you didn't know, George Carlin went through that corporate phase. Those were funny, but then he became the hippy dippy weatherman and actually did the real shit on stand up. But Bill Hicks has a fantastic thing with marketing, where he talks about having a soul, and just if you get a chance, watch Bill Hicks stand up.
Yeah,
That
Bill
guy
Hicks
was
is
taken away
good
from us
stuff.
well before he was taken away before his time by pancreatic cancer. That was a real tragedy.
Yeah, and I mean, his second act is good, but it's a lot more theatrical, you know?
Yeah. But
You know, I
just the
mean,
bit where he talks about finding a point to life, that one's also good.
yeah. Well, no, I mean, his second act is Alex Jones, but,
I get that part.
you know. Shit, I had something, something.
Oh, and Kinison. Sam Kinison. See him, too. If you want to see someone shout in people's faces and get them to laugh.
Man, Sam Kinison is some good comedy. And
Now, if Sam Kinison and Bill Hicks had an illegitimate love child, that would be Alex Jones.
well, you know, I mean, old Bill Hicks, quote unquote, disappeared off the scene about the time that somebody had a car crash in their Camaro. That doesn't mind. But anyway. Silliness.
Yeah, he was the second gunman on the grassy knoll.
Hey, who knows, right?
God, his rants on the JFK thing are just amazing, too.
Oh, his rants on George Bush are amazing.
Yes.
Because George Bush is a bad man. And, you know, there's something I've said about George Bush for a long time. And it's basically...
Senior or junior? Yes.
Yeah, well, more specifically, Debbie. But, oh, Debbie. He got everything he ever wanted. Every single thing he wanted, he got. And he got it by acting like a Texas yokel. That guy was born in New York. And he attended Yale. He has as much of an accent from Texas as I do. Which is to say, I can sure sound like I'm from Texas. I can. If I want to.
I mean, you don't.
No, actually, that probably sounds more like Kentucky or something.
It sounds like someone who got butt fucked in Tennessee.
Okay, Tennessee. Whatever. I haven't heard any Texas accents lately. No, yeah. But, I mean, you know,
I think
you go there long enough, you can kind of pick up on the vernacular. And my thoughts are pretty much that's exactly what he did. The vernacular.
He had himself a little bit of that...
Mission accomplished.
that nasal salt. He got himself some vernacular.
Mm-hmm. I'll tell you what. Well, anyway.
Not the Bama variety we're going with here.
Well, I do actually have some very interesting and good news to close us out. Unless you've got any other topics you're wanting to go over.
If I do, I'm going to shout about it later because it's about time.
Yeah, fair enough. So WikiLeaks has done the drop that was supposed to happen some while ago. And it's the archive. It's out. The archive that has data up to as recent as April of this year.
Oh, does it?
Yes, it does. And it's
what
the whole
was
thing.
The fucking holdup?
That's a very good question. We know that there was a lot of stuff that was done and put in place to stop the Deadsman switch from going in.
Feds or not?
Seems like not. And a huge amount of this data is marked for 1984, hilariously enough.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
That's great.
Good times. But yeah, it's got like the whole archive of the Clinton emails, just about everything here. So I'm going to make sure and include a link.
3,000 of them?
Actually, yes.
Oh, that's going to be juicy. Oh, I can't wait for this.
Oh, from what I understand, this has...
We're about 2 weeks out from a shitstorm then.
Yeah, this came out just in the past few days. So I'm going to make sure and include it in the show links because everybody get all of this, download it, archive it, mirror it.
Archive.
Because it's
Here's
worth
what'll happen is the mainstream media news, and this includes Fox, is going to wait for reactionary content. They're going to wait for this to become part of the kind of normie discussion around the table, so to speak. And then suddenly it's going to be breaking news, big story. Oh, by the way, haven't you heard about how the Russian assets, blah, blah, blah. But what you're probably not going to hear is whatever the fuck is important that's inside there. It'll probably be one of those things where, the whole Chris Cuomo is the only one allowed to actually read this stuff to you, but we fired him, so you're no longer allowed to read it, period.
Oh, yeah, there it is. Yeah. We've no longer got anyone that's actually authorized to view the WikiLeaks data. So you wouldn't want to be a lawbreaker now, would you?
Yeah, so I would expect that you're going to see some chuckle fuckery of that nature coming in.
Yeah, undoubtedly. Who knows? Maybe they'll get Jeffrey Toobin to say it now. They've got to have some kind of degenerate for their fucking face, right?
Oh my god, that man. Like, they took back Toobin, and like with Cuomo, it was like, oh, they're gonna take him back, and then nope, fired. Now, let's get it out of here all we can. This fucker's gonna explode.
Man, I cannot wait and to see what more comes of this, because there's got to be some big shit. And you know what? I'd say we've kind of wrapped this week with some pretty okay news in a really gray week.
All right.
And with that said, anybody that's listening, watching, whatever, hit either one of us up. I'm Evan, at that fake guy Dan, everywhere except Facebook. That's Craig at CraigBob99. I think you're on Facebook, aren't you?
Just about everywhere but Facebook. I'm on Facebook. Not going to be connecting with randos on there though. Family only, basically. Family and childhood friends for the most part.
That's fair. That's fair.
I mean, you can find me and look at my goofy face if you want, but that's about to be the extent of it. I will interact with you elsewhere though. So
Yeah.
Twitter predominantly. I just got a Getter account today.
You haven't got your frankspeech.com yet?
Hopped up on there, got myself So it's funny. I tried to put out the 7 dirty words with a line feed between them. I just tried, one on each line. That one failed to post, but I put a comma between all of them, and I put an and between the last 2 of them, and it posted just fine, easily.
Huh. Well, that's interesting.
So I can't explain that, but maybe there's some kind of maybe it was just a goof.
That's a weird algorithm.
Or maybe they just don't like cuss words, and somehow I got around too many of them without any other context.
Huh, that's legitimately peculiar.
But a new account, so I was bound to run into some kind of database glitch, which wasn't going to surprise. They are doing profoundly better than Parler. But I think it's because they based their code base on already well-known open source microblogging installation. So
yeah, if you're going to build something from scratch, you have to be you've got to be ready for a battle, an uphill battle. Take Gab as an example. Yeah. Like, they've built from the ground up, and God love them, they really have. But it's been a battle, and that having been a battle has taken a toll on Andrew Torba. Like, he sees the world a lot more. He sees himself a lot more as a victim now than he did when this started, and he's not entirely wrong.
Funny.
He's been attacked at a lot of angles for kind of no reason.
I feel bad for him. That's all. It's not no reason. It's just a bad reason.
Fair.
I feel bad for him. There's no love lost between the two of us. But at the same time, like, I can still say I feel bad for him that he's gotten so shafted. But at the same time, he's doing a good thing.
Yeah.
He's built his own thing.
I mean, as fantastic. Sad as it is, we are in the situation where we need a parallel economy. We just do.
Well, he's also started to go down that road, which is the weird thing, because he's bringing in his theological bullshit, where you need a Christian parallel economy. It's like, dude,
we just need a parallel economy. It doesn't need labels or anything.
Because
we've got a fucking economy that's got labels right now. We need one without one.
Like, exactly. Can we drop the pretext on this bullshit? Like, we get it. You've already done your whole I'm super Christian thing. Can we get past that phase where you're Jerry Falwell, for fuck's sake?
Jerry Falwell was a piece of shit. Anyway.
Yeah. So I'm at most places. Twitter is going to be where you're going to find me easiest. I'm selling in on Getter. I try to get to the other places about once a week. Not always easiest for me to do that.
That said, also, catch us on Minds. I am making a point of being more active on Minds, and it's not getting enough attention because mine's is okay.
Nobody's there.
It's actually genuinely okay. They care about free
It is.
speech, and
Oh,
they
and
care about having
you get
a decent
internal.
platform with a good
You
UI.
get the internal incentive. You get internal incentive of getting the points, the platform points for being there, interacting, and doing things, and that does translate into not directly into monetary compensation, but you get points for doing stuff. You can monetize your presence very easily
Absolutely. Another good example of that is
on
Odyssey.
crypto blockchains. Yeah. Yes.
Odyssey as well. Same exactly. Also on crypto, has its own cryptocurrency that you directly get paid in. It's a little convoluted because the feds kind of don't like that, but all you have to do is jump through like one hoop to get your, Odyssey coin turned into a usable coin or dollars.
Right.
And
so
also on that
the nice thing
specific
about
note,
these things is they're blockchain. Yeah.
absolutely, yeah. But on that exact note, you can find all the podcast content on Odyssey. So you can look me up, that fake guy Dan, on Odyssey. And I'm not up to date. I'm almost up to 50, so we're getting there.
Okay.
But you can find our content on there.
Finished, you bastard.
Dude, we're on episode 67, so there's a lot of data to get up. But I am working on it. I'm getting one up like every single day, so by the end of the month, we'll be entirely caught up. And then from there, I'm just going to... Unfortunately, there is no automated system to do it like they got over on BitChute because I'm just tiny. But
dude, and I love that on BitChute where it's automated from YouTube. Because if I had to redo all my shit on BitChute from YouTube, like, oh god, what a slog.
Oh, it is. It's already a hassle going from like doing the Anchor upload, then creating the video, uploading that to YouTube. So it is what it is. So anything that can make my life a little easier is great. Thankfully, a lot of it's copy paste. Because once I've gone and written out all the show notes and information and all that, it's really just a matter of moving it between the few places and including the one or two links.
They don't have the total fucking size of all this shit. Like, there's no one single. So I was just looking at the WikiLeaks thing. There's no like single download yet.
Every file individually.
Is this like? Can I do this on FTP? Because that would be just way fucking easier.
That's a good question.
Then I can
you should
copy
check
the
it.
home folder. Ugh.
You should actually check that. That's entirely possible.
There's a lot
on
of shit
FTP. By the way, for the younger viewers, FTP, File Transfer Protocol, is what used to be. It kind of still is, but what used to be the way that
people use.
Yeah, it's how the internet basically was run. It's like there are these storage lockers, if you will, that you would put all your HTML and assets and stuff on, and then the person would go to the URL and it would direct them to this, much like a DLL works for like a video game or something. It's like, here's all the data in this thing. It's not actually there, it's over here, but it all works.
So the HTTP, so hypertext transfer, anyway, that's a way to link between different assets, and FTP is a way to just download things directly, effectively. So FTP is still very much used very often, and SFTP, so secure, which is just you everything's encrypted. SFTP is very common for shell access as well, but it's a way to send all your stuff like from your computer to the server to make the server your website or to do things on the server. If you want to just transfer files, use FTP, and there's clients for that like FileZilla. Which I highly recommend. It's very useful as a client.
Oh, and I just remembered something that I've got to cover before we get out of the week, because I've got some... I'm going to finish with the amazing news, and I'm sure you'll agree with me, but I am going to start with this great one. Remember, do follow us, as we told you just a minute ago. But there was an event that happened in D.C., a march, as it were, of a group called Patriot Front. And, well...
It's a front of one kind.
It is. So, the long and short, it looks like the Cheryl Llewellyn doesn't exist. It appears that this person's face was an AI composite, and they were basically invented out of whole cloth. And this person was the first to report on this Patriot Front rally, and then for a while they were putting out more and more data about it. Now, you're going to notice when you look in the links below that there's not a link to Cheryl Llewellyn's Twitter, because it's gone now. And the whole thing, basically, it screams federal operation, and then the other videos that have come out of this organization that just appeared out of nowhere, it appears that they've been organized and operating for the last 4 years. Now, there's been some operations going on for the last 4 years that have been working to discredit, you could say, patriots. So that's just an interesting curiosity, wouldn't you say?
You know, kind of like these guys having a barbecue, huh?
Oh yeah. No, just purely a coincidence. That's all. It's all coincidences. And
Yeah, I bet they glow brightly in the dark, don't they?
Oh yeah, glowing so bright they need shades. Oh, and look, they're wearing shades. I wonder if those are government issue.
Yeah.
And of course,
you know, they all look the same, don't they?
They kind of do. Government issue short shorts. Very nice. Very nice.
Yeah, so all of them were wearing khakis. I think that was the funniest thing was they had these plastic shields, and I always think this when I see these people going around like, all right, if you're expecting violence, why are you bringing something that looks like a Nerf dart will go through it? Like, what the fuck are you planning to defend yourself with? Like, it's not Sparta.
Yeah, and they've got riot shields, and not
like
they've
if
got.
You think someone's gonna fire a bullet at you, you don't bring a plastic shield.
Well, let's actually
body armor. You're wearing these fucking shitty sweaters or whatever.
Well, let's pause on that actually for a quick second. Aside from the fact that they released a video while they were on their way there, and you can see that it's a deep fake. Actually, I'll put a link to that in the.
I would love to see that because I'd be able to take a look at it and tell you what.
Oh yeah, no, it's like it's horrendously obvious.
Oh boy, this really looks nuts.
Yeah, it's like you can watch the video and watch as he turns his head away and it fails to keep up and keeps drawing the face on in the position of him facing the camera, and then catches up and pans the face around to where his face is now. It's
not following his mouth isn't following his speech at all.
Yeah, no, it's really something else. And of course, this Cheryl Llewellyn changed to Patriot Front. And
there it is. Hold on. He turns his face away, and there's his real face. There's the ghost image of the old face.
It's
hold the phone. Let me get this bigger, and I can go ahead and take a picture of this.
Yeah, it's excellent stuff.
This isn't like a small glitch. This is like you can see the profile of his actual face, and you can see two shadows of the web it's trying to draw.
Yeah.
There's a shadow facing to the side, and there's a shadow facing forward.
And we add to that.
It's at 18 seconds.
So all these guys have got a really nice patch. They're all, done up in a real similar fashion.
How is this not leaked at all? This is one thing I was sitting there confused about. Like, if this is...
yeah, we hear about every single Proud Boy thing that's happened. We hear about... we don't hear about every Antifa thing that happens.
Like,
we hear about...
you would hear about this before it happened, is the thing. Like,
yep.
You would have to... it doesn't matter if there's no announcement. If you're ordering this shit online or through some supplier...
Yeah, for 500 people?
Somebody would say something.
500 of the same cap and patch?
Cap.
Here's
my screen cap of it.
Yeah, it's... Yeah, if you wonder,
there's the profile of his face, there's his nose, and then there's the tiny little face that's getting confused about screaming off to the side like a ghost.
Right, because, you don't...
There's a face that looks vaguely like Joe Biden staring straight out at you.
Yeah. And there will be a link to that in the below. So it would seem that this operation has been exposed, much like Billy Bob, Joe Bob, Fred Bob in his Brodozer that parked in front of the National Library, or Library of Congress, I should say.
Here's another thing: the police allowed these people to pile into U-Hauls and drive away.
As a matter of fact, there is video of that, which I will also include, and it's Penske trucks. And they aren't saying a fucking word. Oh, another thing. They've all got branded shields. Oh, wait, no. They don't all have branded shields, but they all have exactly the same one. And there's the video of that. But basically, a bunch of people are like, "Fuck you guys, get out of here!" And when you watch them leave, like they act like a SWAT team. So these guys are trained; they know what they're doing. It's clearly a fed up, like clearly. And the video I've included, like, if you were ever doubtful, that makes it just indisputable. So, with all the circumstantial evidence and then the real evidence, it's like, okay, so these were feds trying to do a Jews will not replace us kind of thing. So, falls apart.
It's funny
sometimes.
the night that happened in Charlottesville, like all the videos up to a certain point that I saw was "You will not replace us," and then finally there was a video because people were saying they're saying Jews. I was not hearing it.
Yeah,
And finally,
nobody
someone
was.
sent me a video someone sent me a video where you could clearly hear it, and you could clearly see them saying it, and it looked like the same people to me. But at this point now, I've got to fucking wonder.
Well, yeah, there's a video with an obvious
Like,
deep fake of one of these people. So,
well, it might not even have been deepfake. Just like, were they dressed the same and in the same area and just saying different shit?
oh sure,
Were they just in the same line and holding tiki torches? Because they weren't regularized in any fashion. They didn't have matching uniforms like these douchebags.
right. And 500 matching hats with matching patches that nobody's ever heard of. And the other thing too that's super interesting is the that Ghost account now was pointing out some videos saying that this organization has existed for 4 years. How have we not heard about this organization in the last 4 years, having been fairly tied into this shit?
Well, here's the thing: is maybe it just hasn't been very popularized, or it got memory hold at some point. But we've heard about several others, and there's Patriot Prayer, which I've heard of. I never heard of Patriot Front, but again, it might be that I just missed the name at some point because a lot of these organizations also sound the same. But yeah, I've heard of Patriot Prayer, I've heard of the Proud Boys, I've heard of a couple other groups, but like this one was not among those that I was aware of.
Well, that, and they have a fairly iconic logo. It's easily easily spotted and easily remembered. It's got kind of a chevron symbol on it that doesn't look like anything else. I would remember that. And this is the first I've ever seen of this organization that's existed for 4 years. That's been posting YouTube videos, no less, for 4 years. Which just says, okay, so the feds have been at this for a while. I'm utterly unsurprised. But with that said...
Oh shit! You can also see a clear view of the lower half of his face before it starts in with the deep fake shit.
Oh, before the transition even?
His jawline change at 4 seconds when his face is just coming in. And someone's the next tweet down is, people, this is a Joe Biden deep fake, for fuck's sake.
It does kind of look like his face. Like, especially when you see the side profile, it's just the face when it's his face.
No, stop. Here we go. It is deep fake. And it's a purposeful one. It's supposed to be a joke with Joe Biden's face.
Oh, okay. So there is an original video. I will make sure and include that.
I was right. I was definitely Joe Biden then.
That is hilarious. I'll make sure to include the follow-up for that as well.
All right, so I'm just taking a look at the original now. Okay, so he's clearly visible. He names himself. Says who he's with.
This is Luca Corgiot with Media to Rise, kicking off the live updates for...
Ah, okay. Yeah, that's a totally different face. So...
Yeah, and he's clearly stating things. So this is interesting for follow-up because now you have a name, you have a face attached to it.
Indeed.
This is the kind of shit the Internet Autism Force was designed for. So I'm sure there's,
as a matter of fact, I'm just gonna
who already know what's going on.
Put this up on my timeline so that if anybody is interested,
probably gonna have his fucking bank routing numbers by the end of the night.
Oh, one can only hope so. Yeah, actually, this came out. Oh shit! This info is only about 12 hours old. So interesting. Let's hope something comes of it. I'll make sure and include that below, and I'm tweeting that shit out.
If it's 12 hours old on Twitter, it probably means that it's a little under a day old.
Yeah. Usually hits the chans first. Usually. So we've got the
weird shit.
The interesting, weird, good news. Now, let's just close it out with the good news. That's just good. So, as we've discussed before, the newest Delta variant is more communicable, less deadly, less virulent. These are good things.
Oh, Omicron, you mean?
No, the new Delta variant, the AY or A4Y, that one.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But in addition, we have another variant that is sweeping the globe. We had talked about this last week with some basic info because we didn't have more. We now do. This one is even less deadly, is even more virulent. As a matter of fact, as of recording, there have been no deaths from Omicron. As of recording. So that could change.
As of recording, sure.
But we're dealing with a rapidly spreading virus, rapidly spreading variant, I should say. And nobody's dead.
I mean,
unless people are going to the hospital. And
well, here's the other thing: is a lot of the people that have been infected are also people who. So, a lot of people that have been infected also have had prior infection or vaccine.
Mm-hmm. But even those who haven't, from the initial data, are having better outcomes as well. This is what we want.
This is also very early in a wave.
Oh, sure. But I will include the info from the South African.
I'm hoping nobody dies. I'm hoping nobody dies, but like we're very early in a wave. At least the one province in South Africa has had a major outbreak of it. Like that one guy hit really hard. It started with a G or whatever. Anyway,
I kind of know. I can't remember.
It's not like there was only 10 cases there. It was like the whole entire province got it, but they sequenced 10 cases.
Right.
So last week when that was brought up and they saying, oh, it's only a few. It's like, no, it's a fucking ton of them, but they're only in a couple countries right now.
Yeah,
it's also confirmed in 5 states: Hawaii, Colorado, Minnesota, New York.
Also California.
California, yes. That's all 5. So I think I saw a news story last week where it was already in Florida, and I guess that's not true. That's probably just someone upset with DeSantis.
They are mighty upset with him, and the fact that he's built a civilian defense force, much like California and New York. Those fascist states of California and New York.
It's called an SDF. It's a state defense force, and it's constitutionally defined. Good fucking luck overturning that shit. And more importantly, Florida's was active during World War II. So during times where a draft can exist, so during World War II, and is the canonical example of this because that was where it was most impactful. Most of the states had an SDF. In fact, there's I think there's only like a handful of states that didn't have an SDF.
Well, at this current moment, there's like 20 some states.
There's 21 states with an active SDF. There's one territory, that would be Puerto Rico. Florida would be the 23rd SDF that would be active. And I think there's like another 21 or 26, or no, 26, I think, is the states with inactive SDFs, meaning they were active before and now they are not. And then I think there's the remainder, the makeup for states and territories that existed at the time did not form an SDF. And the SDFs, basically, they're not able to be drafted. They are not able to be called upon by federal forces, so they can't. So the president can't come in and say, "I want to use your SDF troops over here for this emergency." They are faster responding than FEMA because they are there then and at the time needed in the state.
Not only that, too, these people are invested as well because they live there, they work there. I mean, it's a lot like your National Guard.
They don't have to wait for the president to declare an emergency in order to be activated. They don't have to wait for the governor to declare an emergency in order to be activated. They can just be activated immediately. And so they used to be. They would fill in the National Guard when the National Guard members got drafted during World War II. So because they cannot be drafted, they cannot be pulled out of state service. They are very important in the state for emergency response, and it's actually, frankly, a crazy surprise to me that we didn't have one active, because we get fucking hurricanes.
Yeah,
And I
indeed.
figured at least after Hurricane Andrew, which flattened half the state, they would have activated it, but I guess they didn't.
I
But yeah,
kind of
people are
think,
freaking out, acting like it's his private army. It's like he's an elected official. He's not going to take them with him when he goes home.
right?
Fucking losers.
Yeah, they are. They are. But
yeah, I liked how quickly that story died away as soon as they found out that, oh yeah, California and New York. Like even fucking Sarah Silverman corrected.
Yeah, of all the fucking people in the world, Sarah Silverman's like, hey, maybe we should not use this language to describe
Joy
something.
Reid, you Harvard ass.
Of all people, Sarah Silverman criticizing Joy Reid. It's something else, and she deserves criticism. Well, they both do. I mean, I don't know if you saw the preview for Santa Inc., but
I don't know how. I like how Joy Reid's continued employment was an object of discussion apparently internally for a little bit. I don't know what's going to come of that. I hope it results in her contract not being renewed, and then she can just cry about it like Melissa Harris Perry did.
Well, if I'm not mistaken, I think she's trying to run for. I think she's running for governor of Georgia too, which is absolutely hilarious.
No. She's already governor of Georgia. That's good.
Well.
Oh man, that was good.
Me, oh my. Oh yeah, and of course Twitter's in the shitter. Jack's gone, and they've got a new guy in there, a new technocrat in charge, who is going to make it worse. But the stock price has already dipped. So
yeah, I say post pictures of Agarwal or whatever his name is. Make him upset that his picture's online, and make him start taking his pictures down. Like Photoshop his face into like a gangbang, and start replying under his tweets with that. Like if Twitter, if he starts kicking people off of Twitter for posting his image, that would be hilarious. Especially if he gets pulled in front of Congress, and then he's asked to explain why this picture of him with his face in the middle of the goatsy ass got taken off of Twitter. Isn't this free speech?
There is something to be said for that. It's really heartwarming to see memes on the Congress floor. It really is. But
Brian Stelter was flapping his arms about how destructive they are.
Oh, indeed.
That's because the left can't meme. I mean, sometimes there's a lefty that can meme, but at that point, I start to think maybe they're secretly on the right. They just don't like the left.
Right? Yeah, we kind of have to wonder anymore. Because nothing is sure and everything is lies. And that's the world of today.
Yep.
And I guess that's a pretty good sign-off point again. You can find my man Craig here at CraigBob99 most places. You can find me at that fake guy Dan, also most places. Do hit us up on Minds. I really want to have a reason to be more active there because it's a great platform, legitimately solid. So go make Minds because they're not going to kick you. I see some of the most egregious shit on there, and they're totally cool with it. So get on Minds, people. And I guess
women love Minds that makes the men wish they were women too.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, that was a joke that was going one place, but I guess it went another.
Yeah, I don't know.
Especially in today's times.
What's a joke anymore, right? Well, anyway.
Well, apparently it's the reason they kicked off of Twitter.
Well, hey, for a while you couldn't say Kyle Rittenhouse did nothing wrong. You actually... Ah, man. Facebook finally had a ruling on that. You can't... Like, what is it now with Facebook? You can say that you can't disparage any of the people that Kyle Rittenhouse defended himself against, but you can now say that he did nothing wrong, as long as you don't disparage the child rapist that he killed.
Here's what you do with that. You use large words so they can't say anything about it.
Yeah, fair.
Because when idiots don't understand what you're saying when you're mocking them, they just get confused and angry.
Indubitably. Well, with that, we're going to go ahead and call it a week. We'll see you again, and as ever, hit either one of us up. We'll get you into the Discord if you've got anything to add or you just want to hang out and chat. There's a lot of topics we go through that never see air because there's just so much happening these days. So if you want to be a party to that, man, hit us up. We'll be happy to have you. And with that, well, stay safe, have a nice week, and shit, it's Cyber Week. Grab a couple deals if you can. Talk to you soon.